Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. Our stories today: the Supreme Court rules that individual judges lack the authority to grant nationwide injunctions. In addition, there are two important rulings on parents' rights. President Trump calls the Supreme Court ruling a giant win. He tells NTD the decision gives power back to the people. Beijing will approve exports of controlled items to the U.S. In response, the U.S. will lift a series of restrictive measures imposed on China. What we're learning about the new development. The EU says it's ready for a trade deal with the U.S. The bloc has until July 9th to reach an agreement with the Trump administration. The State Department announces new visa restrictions on families of fentanyl traffickers. How effective is targeting the families and associates of traffickers? We discuss with a retired special agent.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us. The Supreme Court has just ruled that individual judges lack the authority to grant nationwide injunctions. The 6-3 decision marks a victory for President Trump after numerous federal judges issued rulings blocking his agenda. However, the court's decision didn't extend to the issue of birthright citizenship. The majority left open the possibility that changes could remain blocked nationwide. Trump's order would deny citizenship to illegal parents with children born in the U.S. Birthright citizenship was enshrined soon after the Civil War in the Constitution's 14th Amendment. The Trump administration has argued that children of non-citizens are not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States and therefore are not entitled to citizenship. Attorney General Pam Bondi and Vice President J.D. Vance hailed the decision. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court issued a series of other rulings. The High Court today sided with a group of parents challenging mandatory LGBT books in school curriculum. Former President Barack Obama's landmark healthcare legislation got backing from the justices as well. The court upheld the authority of an Affordable Care Act task force that recommends preventative health care services that insurers must cover. In another case, the justices affirmed a series of programs that reduce broadband internet and telephone services prices for low-income and rural communities. President Trump held a press conference right after the Supreme Court's rulings in which he hailed the High Court's decisions. NTD's Iris Tao joins us now live from the White House. Good afternoon, Iris. You asked President Trump a very good question. Can you tell us more about it?
Good afternoon to you as well, Don. So the Supreme Court today delivered President Trump a major win by curbing the power of lower courts to issue injunctions against his executive actions. It's a 6-3 decision along ideological lines issued by the court. It was written by Justice Amy Barrett today. And also Trump today telling NTD at a press conference this morning that this decision by the Supreme Court today really gave the power back to the American people, Congress, as well as the presidency. Watch.
Iris Tao with NTD Research Media with the Epoch Times. Thank you so much for doing this. It's very refreshing for all of us here in this room.
It's refreshing.
Very refreshing. Yes, we have to have this, and
I understand what you mean.
So thank you so much for coming out here.
Other than Caroline's done a great job.
Yes,
You're referring to the past administration, not to Caroline, right?
Yes. Back to the ruling today, if you don't mind. So you have always talked about winning for the American people.
Right.
How do you think today's ruling will enable you to further deliver for American families and workers across the country, not only when it comes to immigration, but also when it comes to trade, energy? What actions are most eager to move forward?
Well, I think
now?
taking power away from these absolutely crazy radical left judges is a tremendous. This is such a big day. This is such a big day. It's like. It's sort of sad because we're doing the signing at 3 o'clock, and this may very well dominate the signing of a big war that was going on and really affecting the continent of, think of it, the entire continent of Africa was being affected. And we're settling that war today, and this will probably be a headline. But this is a very big moment, and it gives power back to people that should have it, including Congress, including the presidency.
And specifically, what the ruling today means is that going forward, the practice of automatically granting U.S. citizenship to illegal immigrants in this country will end in the 28 states that did not challenge Trump's order. And also goes beyond just that. President Trump says now with this latest ruling, the administration can properly file to proceed in other policies beyond just the birthright citizenship order that was blocked by nationwide injunctions. And since day one, President Trump has been hit with numerous injunctions for his executive orders. And actually, Trump said today that he's been hit with more injunctions than all of 20th century combined. Attorney General Pam Bondi today was also at the press conference, of course, celebrating the Supreme Court's decision and also criticizing lower courts judges nationwide, saying that they're acting like emperors. Here's what she said. Watch.
94 districts and 35 out of the 40 opinions with nationwide injunctions came from 5 liberal districts in this country. No longer will we have rogue judges striking down President Trump's policies across the entire nation.
And later this afternoon, President Trump will believe that there were secret sites that Iran was using to hide their enriched uranium. Here's what Trump said about the U.S. strikes. Watch.
Think of this dark, no moon, you couldn't see a thing, and they hit the refrigerator door, as they say. That's the size of a target, and overwhelmingly, and it's amazing what was done. We're the only ones that could have done it, and we took out the 2 of the other sites also. In addition to that, we finished them off.
Of course, it comes as the administration is refuting reports by outlets like CNN and the New York Times, which they call fake, reporting that there's a leaked intel report from the U.S. government suggesting that the sites were not completely destroyed and the impact on Iran's nuclear capabilities are limited. Trump has been that intentionally pushed out such narratives to media outlets who later use them to push out, again, incomplete narratives. Back to you, Don.
Okay, Iris, thank you. And the Supreme Court, can you explain for us what the Supreme Court actually decided in this case, and what did it not decide?
Yes, absolutely. So today's decision by the United States Supreme Court did not decide the underlying issue. What I mean by that is they did not rule on whether or not Trump's executive order ending birthright citizenship in our country is legal or not. That is not what they answered. The question they answered today was
equity as well as the long history of injunctive relief granted to non-parties. Going forward, will non-parties, those not directly involved in the case, that is, have any chance of relief in future cases? Can you just comment on that?
Right. So what the dissenting justices are saying in this part here is that they feel that if a lower court federal judge is not allowed to do a blanket nationwide injunction on something to stop the executive branch, to stop something President Trump is trying to do, she's saying if they're not allowed to do that, then there are other people in other states and around the country that will be subjected to whatever the executive order or the action of the power of the president is. And that's true. If we take away the power of these lower federal judges to do a blanket nationwide injunction and stop the president's orders or policies from going into effect, yes, that means that in those states where it's not taking effect because they're not part of the plaintiff pool, then in that case, those people will be, in essence, having to fight their own fight and bring their own lawsuits. So she is correct in that, but she's overlooking the fact that these lower federal courts don't have the power to do that. That is not what Article 3 of our Constitution says.
Okay, there were other decisions as well today, and I do want to get to those as well. I'll just ask you one more question on this ruling. You mentioned earlier the court didn't rule on the constitutionality of Trump's birthright citizenship order itself, but it is willing to partially lift the injunctions, right? Are there any signals to be read there?
Well, it's not really a signal, but if you read the decision, the dissenting opinion, the dissenting justices, the 3 liberal justices on the court did say they thought the underlying issue that Trump's executive order that says we are ending this birthright citizenship for people that are here temporarily or here illegally. They did say they found that, or they thought that, to be unconstitutional and that it conflicts with the Constitution. But the majority did not rule on that. So that issue is not decided today. And perhaps that will be decided when the court resumes in October of this year. But they do have summer break coming up. So I don't see that issue being ruled upon before the summer break begins.
All right, let's also talk about the Supreme Court also ruling that Maryland parents who have religious objections can pull their children from public school lessons that are using LGBTQ storybooks. Walk us through that decision.
Yeah, so this is a very important decision. The Supreme Court today issued a ruling that basically solidifies not just the First Amendment rights to freedom of religion, but also parents' rights. Something that we've seen that's really been under attack these last few years in our country. So what they said in this ruling was that the school district in Maryland, which was integrating into the school system and the teachings of the children LGBTQ books, transgender books, without giving the parents the option to pull their kids from those classes and not have their children learn about it, that is unconstitutional, that you can't do that because that would be the government forcing citizens to learn things that go against their religion. And you can't do that as a government entity. So they said this is unconstitutional, meaning if the school district wants to do this and have this part of their curriculum, they do have to afford an opt-out provision for the parents that don't want their children to learn these things, particularly at that age or that point in their schooling development. So it's a very important ruling. And as it stands now, what this means is those parents will be given or must be given an opt-out if that rule or that policy or that law is going to stay in effect in Maryland. But this is going to affect other states as well. This is not just going to be something that affects this particular Maryland school district. So we are going to see now the ripple effect with other states, including New York, where they do push these things and these policies are in place right now, will be affected by this decision today.
Yeah, a lot of important decisions coming out today. And if I may, let me just get one quick comment, one more from you. The U.S. Supreme Court also decided to uphold a Texas law requiring age verification to access pornographic websites. What did exactly the Supreme Court uphold in the law, and what was their reasoning?
Right. So with this law, it's a Texas state law which says that if a website has, I believe it's more than 30% of its content that is pornographic, that they must make a process that the person going on their website to view their website and its content has to prove their age. So that would be, age verification through a license or some sort of government photo ID or something like this. And if they didn't do that, if the website didn't require that the people coming onto their website, the users, prove their age, then the consequences could be dramatic. I believe it was up to $250,000 as a fine if they did catch somebody allowing a minor to go on their website, and if it was more than 30% pornographic material. So this is a pretty bold decision by the United States Supreme Court because they are upholding this law and saying it's okay for Texas to say this.
Well, really appreciate your time today, Bobby Yan. Thank you very much.
Yes, thanks for having me on.
Coming up, Beijing will approve exports of controlled items to the U.S. In response, the U.S. will lift a series of restrictive measures imposed on China. What we're learning about the new development. We have that story and more after the break.
Hi, I'm Ty Pennington, here for Choice Home Warranty. They protect my home from expensive repairs, and they can do the same for you. No matter if it's your refrigerator, plumbing, or more than 20 other home systems and appliances, Choice Home Warranty has saved millions of homeowners a whole lot of money. For a low monthly fee, you get their nationwide network of trusted local technicians with plans that cover repairs and replacements done quickly and the right way. No more headaches searching for technicians. No more budget-breaking chaos. Just a peace of mind of having Choice Home Warranty at your service. Call Choice Home Warranty now and save big with their special offer of your first month free and free limited roof coverage. Call now.
Call Choice Home Warranty for your free personalized quote and to get your first month free. Call in the next 5 minutes, and as our special offer, you'll receive free limited roof coverage. Call now to lock in your rate and save big. Call 800-210-6422. 800-210-6422.
Is deep sea fish oil really healthy? Due to pollution in the oceans, most fish contain heavy metal elements and radioactive substances. That's why it's so important to choose a pure source of omega-3. Puritang Green Vegetable Omega-3 is made from purslane and perilla seeds, which are rich in nutrients and minerals, especially vitamins A, D, E, calcium, and iron. With natural processing and no harmful chemical additives, it has more than 90% concentration of omegas 3, 6, 7, and 9. It effectively improves brain power and is beneficial to the heart's health. Puritang Omega-3 does not smell of fish and contains no pollutants, so both adults and children can safely and easily consume it over a long period of time. Puritang Green Vegetable Omega-3. Greener, healthier, and more effective. Visit puritang.com to learn more.
We said we'd never give in to a meltdown.
Okay.
We'd never babysit with a screen. We said we'd never let the toys take over.
Mariella!
Never leave the house looking, well, and never let them out of our sight.
Skylar, come here.
Cars get hot fast, and kids can be at risk. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock.
President Trump has just suspended trade negotiations with Canada. The president took to Truth Social to explain his decision. Trump had said that Canada had announced a digital services tax on American tech companies. The president posted, quote, "They are obviously copying the European Union, which has done the same thing and is currently under discussion with us also." The president added, quote, "Based on this egregious tax, we are hereby terminating all discussions with trade on Canada, effective immediately." Trump said he would determine a tariff in response to Canada's move within the next week. President Trump confirmed a new trade agreement with Beijing, however. Trump made the announcement yesterday without giving further details. He told reporters the U.S. was starting to open up China, saying it was something that, quote, never really could have happened.
We just signed with China yesterday, right? Just signed with China. We have everybody. We're not going to make deals with everybody. Some we're just going to send them a letter, say, thank you very much. You're going to pay 25, 35, 45%. That's the easy way to do it. And my people don't want to do it that way. They want to do some of it, but they want to make more deals than I would do. But we're having some great deals. We have one coming up, maybe with India, very big one, where we're going to open up India. In the China deal, we're starting to open up China, things that never really could have happened. And the relationship with every country has been very good.
In the meantime, Beijing says it will approve exports of controlled items to the United States. A Chinese spokesperson said the U.S. will lift a series of restrictive measures imposed on China. U.S. and Chinese commerce officials agreed on a trade agreement framework in London earlier this month. The spokesperson said the ministry was responding to a journalist's question about accelerating rare earth exports to the United States. The ministry's response did not explicitly mention rare earths. The White House didn't immediately respond to a question for comment. China has been dragging its feet on approving U.S. requests for rare earth minerals, despite promising to ease exports just 2 weeks ago. American firms say they're stuck waiting weeks for responses, with many applications outright denied. Here's more.
And it's not just finished magnets. U.S. companies say requests for the raw materials needed to make them are also facing major delays. That's forcing manufacturers to scramble. Some are even paying extra for air freight just to keep production running. Many in the industry now worry the delays could be long-term, despite assurances from the White House that exports would return to normal. One rare earth analyst notes that although China may have lifted restrictions on paper, certain bureaucratic procedures are still slowing down approvals. Analysts say the situation shows how Beijing can tighten its grip on U.S. supply chains and hurt American businesses when it wants to. China produces 90% of the world's strongest rare earth magnets used in EVs and fighter jets. In May, exports of those magnets to the U.S. fell by 93% compared to last year. Washington accuses China of stalling export licenses, but Beijing claims it's simply trying to keep the materials out of military hands. What's more, the Wall Street Journal says China is making companies hand over lists of their tech experts. That way, they don't share anything with foreigners seeking independence from Beijing's rare earth supply chains. One U.S. magnet importer says it's getting painfully expensive just to keep factories running. If the current pace continues, American manufacturers may face increasing pressure in the months ahead. Despite the challenges with China over rare earths, the U.S. might finally have a chance to bring some refining back home. In Oklahoma, a nickel refining machine was recently uncovered. It's a big step towards breaking China's grip on this key energy metal. The facility hopes to turn Oklahoma into a hub for processing critical U.S. minerals, a sector that's been dormant for decades.
European Union chiefs held a news briefing late Thursday following a meeting of European leaders in Brussels. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said the bloc was eager for a trade agreement with the U.S. by the July 9th deadline, but only under terms the EU can accept. Listen.
Today, we received the latest U.S. document for further negotiations. We are assessing it as we speak right now. So our message today is clear. We are ready for a deal. At the same time, we are preparing for the possibility that no satisfactory agreement is reached. This is why we consulted on a rebalancing list, and we will defend the European interest as needed. In short, all options remain on the table.
Trump announced reciprocal tariffs in April. A temporary 10% duty on EU imports would double to 20% if no deal is reached by July 9th. Meanwhile, in Asia, Thailand's finance minister said he will travel to the United States for trade talks next week. Thailand faces a 36% tariff on its exports if it fails to negotiate a deal before the pause ends in July. In the meantime, a 10% tariff has been set for most nations. Kilmar Abrego Garcia will stand trial in the United States before any attempt is made to deport him again. That's according to the White House, after confusion over whether officials were planning or preparing to send him to a third country. Abrego Garcia is accused of leading a years-long human smuggling ring, allegedly bringing people from Central and South America into the U.S. through Mexico, many of them linked to the MS-13 gang. He pleaded not guilty earlier this month. His lawyers say the government's case is weak and built on unreliable testimony from people already facing prosecution. The Salvadorian national was deported in March despite a federal order barring his removal. The Supreme Court later ruled that the Trump administration must facilitate his return to the U.S. A judge said she would order Abrego Garcia's release without bail, though he is expected to be taken into immigration custody immediately afterward. White House officials say Abrego Garcia will be held accountable in court, and if convicted, he'll serve his sentence in a U.S. prison. 3 suspects have been charged with assaulting federal law enforcement and other offenses at ICE protests in Portland. They made their first appearances in federal court yesterday. Police say several individuals gathered near an ICE office in South Portland on Tuesday. The site has been repeatedly targeted for weeks. Authorities say protesters have made threats, used pepper spray, and thrown rocks, trash, and bricks. Julie Winters of Portland faces felony charges alleging she tried to assault federal officers with a knife. Police say she also tried to light an incendiary device next to a guard shack. Aziel Chambers of Maryland, Oregon, is accused of using a laser pointer against an officer. Rachel Jean Pope, also of Portland, allegedly threw a gas canister at officers. Guatemala and the United States signed a joint security partnership agreement yesterday. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem discussed the deal aimed at strengthening capabilities against transnational threats. Listen.
This joint security partnership will allow us to share background information, biometric data sharing, criminal vetting, and also individuals and security protocols at our airports, at our ports, at our borders, and also between our intelligence agencies so that we can better protect the families that live in our countries.
The agreement allows U.S. immigration agents to operate in Guatemala and have access to information on those entering and leaving the country. It also includes better cooperation against drug trafficking and setting up anti-narcotics border patrols. Guatemala was the last stop in Noem's Central American tour following visits to Costa Rica and Honduras. The U.S. will not complete scheduled deliveries of crude oil into the Strategic Petroleum Reserve until the end of the year. The Department of Energy cited maintenance works as the deliveries lag 7 months behind schedule. Former President Joe Biden's administration had scheduled 15.8 million barrels of deliveries from January through May. So far this year, only 8.8 million of that has been delivered to the reserve. Meanwhile, oil prices rose today despite being on track for their steepest weekly decline since March 2023. Brent crude futures rose 0.8% to $68 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate crude gained 60 cents, or nearly 1%, to $65.83 a barrel. Brent prices has risen briefly to above $80 a barrel before slumping to $67 after President Trump announced an Israel-Iran ceasefire. Coming up, the State Department announces new visa restrictions on families of fentanyl traffickers. How effective is targeting the families and associates of traffickers? We discuss with a retired special agent after the break.
I was a young dad of 3 amazing kids, and just when you feel like life is starting to come together, you get kind of hit in the face. I was born with a congenital heart defect and had open heart surgery as a kid. I was supposed to go to the heart doctor once a year, and I finally went. He listened to my heart, and I'll never forget, he sat back and he said, yeah, it's time for open heart surgery, or you risk your aorta rupturing, and that's it. I was scared out of my mind. The night before my open heart surgery, I made a goodbye video for my kids, just in case I didn't make it. Be strong. Take care of your mom. I love you guys.
Seeing, all the kids hug him goodbye and hoping that they were going to be able to hug him again.
I love you. But I did make it, thanks to the work of the American Heart Association. So that's why I'm asking you to join me. Please call now or go to helpheart.org with your donation to help save lives. You can help get the next person trained in CPR, get the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care, as well as fund the next medical breakthrough like these heart valves that help save my life.
I'm most grateful that I get to have a husband that I get to grow old with, and a husband that gets to be there for his children.
Heart disease is the #1 killer in the U.S. That's why it's so important that you call or go online right now with your generous gift. I believe without the American Heart Association, I would not be here today. If this can happen to me, it can happen to you, it can happen to anybody. We all need your help. And your donation can literally help save a life. Please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org now with your gift of any amount.
The bladder control aisle. You won't shop here again. Your private business is your own. The constant struggle is over. Now there's a better way. It's HDIS. We home deliver bladder control products. We understand how you feel. For over 25 years, we've home delivered to many of the 20 million Americans who deal with incontinence. We offer all brands. We pay shipping and use plain, unmarked boxes. If we can help you or someone you care for, call for your free product sample pack and $45 in money-saving coupons. Our counselors will help you choose the right product. And unlike stores, we're always in stock. You'll get what you need. Satisfaction guaranteed. HDIS, the better way.
For your free sample pack with your free catalog, $45 in money-saving coupons, and free product samples, call 1-800-701-6159. That's 1-800-701-6159.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced new visa restrictions targeting the illicit flow of fentanyl into the U.S. In a statement issued by the State Department, Rubio said, quote, imposing visa restrictions on drug traffickers, their families, members, and close personal and business associates will not only prevent them from entering the United States, but it will serve as a deterrent for continued illicit activities. And joining us now to discuss this new visa restrictions is Victor Avila. He's a retired special agent with the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and author of the book Agent Under Fire. Good afternoon, Victor. Can you tell us how effective that you think this is, targeting families and associates of traffickers? How likely is it going to be effective?
I think it'll be very effective because it's a reminder that it's not just the drug dealer. That a lot of us have this idea of what a drug dealer looks like, of this person that actually sells the fentanyl from one person to another, but the tentacles of the narco traffickers that goes beyond that one person. A lot of people in the United States that you would never imagine that they're tied to these cartels and pushing the fentanyl. And yes, family members as well. So keeping them from having the ability to come into the United States by removing and taking away their visa, I think it's a great move by the Secretary.
You know, it is a bit shocking and surprising as well for me to hear that family members could be involved, but I guess that's just reality. But my question is, what if innocent family members are caught up in these visa bans? Do you think this new policy strike the right balance?
Well, it's not that maybe that innocent family members will get caught up here, but what it's doing is actually doing and providing an actual vetting, a very true vetting of the individuals. Now we're actually paying attention to your associates, to your family members, whoever might be linked to these narco traffickers and fentanyl pushers, that in fact, if you have any link to one of them, we don't want you in the country. I've seen this expanding to the music artists, by the way, that have their visas been taken away, so they won't come and perform in the U.S. because they're linked to cartel activity. So obviously, we want to look at it very closely and make sure that it doesn't affect people that are innocent of this, but it will definitely be looked at on a case-by-case basis to eliminate anybody that in fact does have that linkage.
So Victor, on top of that, the Treasury Department also recently imposed sanctions, right, on 3 Mexican finance firms over China's fentanyl trade. And the Treasury is saying that the firms had played a long-standing and vital role, actually, in laundering millions of dollars on behalf of Mexican cartels and facilitating payments to obtain precursor chemicals for fentanyl production. On this, how effective, in your opinion, are financial sanctions in disrupting the money flow behind fentanyl trafficking?
Probably the best way to actually combat the cartels. We know that if you follow the money, in my career, the money laundering aspect of the cartels is vital to their dismantling and destruction of their organizations. It's what they're here for. They're here for the power and then the money, that the billions of dollars that they're making. When you attack them, and in this case, FinCEN, labeling them and putting them in these categories to freeze some of their assets, it's a great move because we know that the drugs come north, the money goes south, but then the money comes back north and it's implemented through money laundering schemes into the world banking system. Any business that you can imagine, the cartels are involved in trying to clean their money and all these illicit funds. When you identify those funds, you get to freeze them, and that's where you actually start to hurt them, so you won't allow them to continue to work with the money that they've been receiving. All of this by not just drugs, by the way. The narco traffickers and these cartels are involved in many other aspects of many other businesses that have nothing to do with drugs. Human smuggling and human trafficking being another one. but they're involved in the illegal petroleum trade, for example, the theft of petroleum trade, and many other ways where they make millions of money and they want to incorporate it back in the banking system. This eliminates that.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, Victor. Going after the money, in my opinion, always a good bet here. Can you also talk to us about China's role here, right? What does China have to gain on precursor chemicals?
Well, this is the problem with Mexico and the relationship that China has with Mexico. And yes, unfortunately, those precursors and the chemicals are still making their way into Mexico. Now, there's been a lot of pressure, obviously, on China to make them do that, because without these chemicals, these labs wouldn't exist in Mexico. And the fentanyl and meth, by the way, does not forget about the methamphetamine that's produced in Mexico as well. That right now is primarily the #1 thing that's being smuggled into the United States is meth and cocaine, believe it or not, as fentanyl has dropped a little bit. But China has to be held accountable. Mexico needs to be held accountable by allowing their ports to be used, especially the port of Manzanillo, that you probably haven't heard about, is probably the #1 seaport where these precursors come in through. So there's a lot to be done there. There's way, way more to be expected from Mexico and China to then affect the cartels from pushing this poison into our country.
And Victor, if you don't mind, can we just go a little deeper into this? How do Mexican cartels exactly work with China?
Well, the #1 word is corruption, right? They allow these chemicals to come in. They get paid. The officials down there, the seaports, get paid. The chemicals, the precursors come in containers. They are now trucked from the southern port of Mexico, especially the one in Manzanillo, but they also use the one in Veracruz and others. And then they trucked in to the mountainous regions of where these hundreds of super labs are located around the country of Mexico, where the cartel has 100% control of them. Now, I'll give credit. Mexico has been taking down some of these labs and these areas, and that's a good thing. But there's so many more out there still producing, especially the pills that look exactly like a pharmaceutical pill, like Oxycontin, like Xanax, like all these pills that are making their way into our campuses and killing 22 students a week in the United States. That is an alarming statistic. 65% of high school students think that it's okay to take a pill that is not coming from a U.S. pharmacy. These are alarming statistics that still is a big problem within the United States, and the root cause is down there with China and Mexico allowing this to come in.
Wow, 20 students a week. I was expecting you to say maybe like a month or some other time frame, but that's incredible. How would you say, Victor, how directly involved is the Chinese state or the Chinese Communist Party in the export of fentanyl precursors?
They're the #1 cause. I mean, think of the bigger picture. The cartel, if you really think about it, are the soldiers and the distributors. And yes, they're making billions of dollars. But the big problem here is not just China, but Venezuela, Cuba, and other countries that are aligned with Mexico. And Mexico, for some reason, doesn't want to tackle that. They don't want to nip it in the bud in their country to allow it to even come in. Mexico denies that they even have, at one point, denied have a fentanyl problem. And this is the issue that the United States and the Trump administration is dealing with Mexico. There's a big problem in Mexico, also with usage in Mexico. They do have a big addiction problem there as well. So we have to work, bilaterally here with Mexico to be able to combat that. But we have to get Mexico to address the issue, and maybe the pressure from the United States would once and for all allow them to start working. And literally comes down to law enforcement down at the ports of entry. The same things with weapons and same thing with other issues. Mexico needs to get on board too. Because the solution here is that it helps everyone. It makes Mexico a safer country as well as the United States.
Well, Victor, really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to talk to us about this. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Next, the Israeli military said today that the IDF had exceeded their operational goals in some areas. Despite the reported success, it says it needs to remain vigilant.
Yet, we are under no illusion. The enemy has not changed its intentions. Through this operation, we were able to achieve our objective to prevent an existential threat to Israel, the region and the Western world. We remain alert on all fronts. We are preparing for a variety of scenarios and continuing to operate against Hamas in Gaza alongside our efforts to return all hostages. The mission is not yet complete. 50 hostages remain in captivity.
Israel attacked Iran on June 13th, targeting its nuclear sites, defense systems, high-ranking military officials, and atomic scientists. Israel said it killed around 30 Iranian commanders and 11 nuclear scientists in 12 days of strikes. It also hit 8 nuclear-related facilities and more than 720 military infrastructure sites. Israel's Air Force carried out intense airstrikes today in the south of Lebanon. It says it targeted underground assets of the Hezbollah terrorist group. The Israeli military also released a video today showing what it says are troops operating in northern Gaza. A second video shows the dismantling of a tunnel. The military said the tunnel was used by terrorists in 2014 to kill 4 Israeli soldiers. While U.S. officials appear to rule out direct involvement for a regime change in Iran, the prospect still remains in the country. Opposition figures and groups abroad continue to push for tougher international pressure on the regime. NTD's international correspondent David Vivez reports from Paris.
The possibility of regime change in Iran seems increasingly absent from international discussion. While President Donald Trump posted on June 22nd, if the current Iranian regime is unable to make Iran great again, why wouldn't there be a regime change? He later walked back that statement and said he wants to see everything calm down. Still, inside and outside Iran, the idea of regime change garners support as the country faces economic collapse and entrenched repression under the mullah's regime. Reports from officials and activists said Tehran has intensified mass arrests, executions and military deployments, particularly in the restive Kurdish region since the end of the 12-day war. According to Shahin Nezad, spokesperson for the Iran resurgence movement, Israel's strikes have been welcomed by much of the Iranian population, especially since they targeted regime infrastructure and government figures linked to the violent suppression of protesters. However, he warns that while a ceasefire may serve peace in the region, it could be disastrous for the Iranian people as the regime will strengthen its position.
They can claim that they have won the war. Yeah, they didn't surrender, and now they can give a hell to everyone who opposed them in the past several years. And now they've got the excuse. You are Mossad agent. You are CIA agent. So people who had been arrested before, and we were worried about them, same people might be executed easily because the level of suppression and dictatorship goes to another level.
Iran's men's opposition organizations outside the country, such as the Iranian Resurgence Movement, the Shah's son, exiled Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi, and the National Council of Resistance of Iran, or NCRI, believe that change is possible through tougher policies against the regime and stronger support for the Iranian people. According to NCRI spokesperson Shahin Gobadi, appeasement would be the worst-case scenario.
The fact of the matter is that every penny, every dime, every dollar that this regime gets is either used to repress the Iranian people or to finance terrorist groups or to advance nuclear and ballistic missiles, or it is plundered by the mullahs, regime's leaders and the commanders of the IRGC.
Both NCRI and the Iran Resurgence Movement strongly oppose the JCPOA, the Iran nuclear deal brokered under the Obama administration and supported by the EU. Gobadi says the policy failed to curb terrorism or halt Iran's nuclear ambitions.
There has been 5 nationwide uprisings in Iran since December 2017, and each of them getting more inclusive, stronger, and more people involved. The last round in September 22, all the way to the early 2023, was in all 31 provinces of Iran in some 300 cities and towns. It gives you a good sentiment that how the change would come. It definitely would be through an uprising by the Iranian people, and as I said, looking at the trajectory and the trend, this is inevitable.
Some analysts warn that the collapse of the mullah's regime could open the door to chaos, which may not serve the interests of Israel or the United States. But opposition groups like NCRI and Iran Resurgence stress that they, along with many Iranians, seek democracy, a secular state, and restored ties with Western nations. David Vives, NTD News, Paris.
The U.S. ambassador to Russia is leaving Moscow. The career diplomat's departure comes as Russia and the United States discuss restoring relations after Moscow invaded Ukraine in 2022. Lynn Tracy arrived in Moscow in January 2023. Tracy was notably involved in efforts to win the release of U.S. citizens detained in Russia. Her work helped secure the release of high-profile American detainees, including journalists Evan Gershkovich and former Marine Paul Whelan. Both were eventually freed in August 2024 as part of a big East-West prisoner swap. A former aide to New York Governor Kathy Hochul and former Governor Andrew Cuomo is facing new federal fraud charges. Linda Sun was already accused of acting as an unregistered agent for the Chinese regime. The new indictment alleges Sun and her husband steered millions in COVID-era state contracts to companies tied to her family, while serving as a diversity officer under Governor Cuomo. Prosecutors say she added 2 China-linked companies to a list of recommended vendors, one run by her second cousin, the other by her husband. They say she also altered an email from a Chinese official to boost her cousin's surgical mask business. Between March and June 2020, New York wired nearly $45 million to those companies. Sun and her husband allegedly pocketed more than $2 million in kickbacks. Sun's lawyer said she will vigorously contest the allegations. German regulators have asked Apple and Google to remove Chinese AI startup DeepSeek from German app stores. The country is concerned about its citizens' data protection. The German Data Protection Commissioner said she made the request because DeepSeek illegally transfers users' personal data to China. She said the 2 tech giants must review the request promptly and decide whether to block the app in Germany. According to its own privacy policy, DeepSeek stores numerous pieces of personal data on computers in China. She said DeepSeek has not provided her agency with enough evidence showing the data is sufficiently protected. She added that Chinese authorities have far-reaching access rights to user data from Chinese companies. Coming up, a fireball lights up the sky over the south, caught on dashcam and heard for miles. What we know about the Meteor sighting that shook Georgia and South Carolina after the break.
Big things are happening at Mathis Homes. Save all summer long with price drop alerts all over the store. Their suppliers have cut prices and they're passing those savings on to you. Get new lower prices with top name recliners as low as $199. And huge markdowns on hundreds of sofas in all the latest styles. Now's your chance to save big for every room in your house. There's something for everyone. Plus, get 12-month no-interest financing and free delivery. Check out these price drop alerts and save at your furniture superstore, Mathis Home.
Inflation is still driving up home repair costs. How are millions of homeowners saving money on unexpected bills? With Choice Home Warranty.
Is a new refrigerator in your budget? How about a replacement AC unit? I'm Ty Pennington. For many families, these costs can be catastrophic. That's why I'm a Choice Home Warranty customer. They've saved millions of homeowners from unexpected repair bills with an affordable monthly plan that provides peace of mind and helps avoid surprise expenses. Call now to protect your home with Choice Home Warranty and get your first month free.
Choice Home Warranty offers plans that cover repair or replacement on up to 25 essential home systems and appliances. Protect your budget with a customizable Choice Home Warranty.
We've been a Choice Home Warranty customer for almost 9 years.
And we couldn't be more happy with their service that we get from Choice Home Warranty.
Unexpected home repairs can quickly eat into your savings. It wastes time and fills you with stress. Choice Home Warranty is the most trusted name in home warranty. Call now to lock in a low monthly rate.
Choice Home Warranty has a nationwide network of more than 25,000 trusted technicians. When I have a breakdown, they always have the right contractor to get me taken care of quickly. I just pay a low monthly fee and they pay for the covered repairs.
Choice Home Warranty has been a great company to work with, and they've taken care of us. I would suggest anybody who lives in a home not to be in a home without him.
It's time to protect your hard-earned money with an affordable plan from Choice Home Warranty. Call right now for the peace of mind you and your family deserve. Call Choice Home Warranty now.
Protect your home and your wallet with Choice Home Warranty. Call now to get a free quote, your first month free, and save $10 a month for the first year. Call 800-983-4585, 800-983-4585, or go to choicehome.com.
Kids love it. Parents trust it. Obviously. Explore GJW Plus Kids Series and Gyeong Campus courses led by expert educators. This is spectacular. Children will learn values like respect, responsibility, and knowledge in language, science, and more. Wow. All while having fun. Perfect. Subscribe today at GJW Plus Kids, where learning meets fun.
The Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda are set to sign a peace deal. The U.S. helped broker the agreement to end the decades-long fighting in eastern Congo. The deal would also help the U.S. government and American companies gain access to critical minerals in the region. Congo has been ripped apart by fighting between more than 100 armed groups. The most prominent is the M23 rebel group, backed by neighboring Rwanda. Rwanda has said it is defending its territorial interests and not supporting the rebels. The Union has called the conflict, quote, one of the most protracted, complex, serious humanitarian crises on Earth. M23 has suggested the agreement won't be binding. President Donald Trump will host foreign ministers from Rwanda and the Democratic Republic in the Oval Office soon. Dashcam video captured the moment when a meteor streaked across the sky in South Carolina yesterday. The American Meteor Society reported receiving over 160 eyewitness accounts of the sighting in South Carolina, as well as in the neighboring state of Georgia a little past noon. NASA's Meteoroid Environment Office reported that a fireball exploded approximately 27 miles above West Forest, Georgia, producing loud booms heard by local residents. The Newton County Sheriff's Office in Georgia said they currently do not have any information on where the meteor may have landed. Coming up, President Trump is meeting with the foreign ministers of Congo and Rwanda after both countries signed a peace agreement in Washington, D.C. Stay tuned for that when we come back.
Hi, I'm Ty Pennington, here for Choice Home Warranty. They protect my home from expensive repairs, and they can do the same for you. No matter if it's your refrigerator, plumbing, or more than 20 other home systems and appliances, Choice Home Warranty has saved millions of homeowners a whole lot of money. For a low monthly fee, you get their nationwide network of trusted local technicians with plans that cover repairs and replacements done quickly and the right way. No more headaches searching for technicians. No more budget-breaking chaos. Just a peace of mind of having Choice Home Warranty at your service. Call Choice Home Warranty now and save big with their special offer of your first month free and free limited roof coverage. Call now.
Call Choice Home Warranty for your free personalized quote and to get your first month free. Call in the next 5 minutes, and as our special offer, you'll receive free limited roof coverage. Call now to lock in your rate and save big. Call 800-210-6422, 800-210-6422.
Whispered across generations, a hidden secret unveils the essence of longevity and vitality. A timeless legend regarding energy and wonder. Rooted in ancient health wisdom, we proudly introduce Pure Tang Black Ginseng, a 100% natural organic energy drink made from premium 6-year-old Korean ginseng. It takes 2,260 days and nights from seed to growth, undergoing a meticulous 9-step process of steaming and drying. Black ginseng reaches its full potency, enriched with ginsenoside RG3 and enhanced absorption efficiency. No sugar, no caffeine, no artificial ingredients. Experience the pure, natural power of Pure Tang Black Ginseng. Nourish your body, strengthen your immunity, and boost your energy. To order Pure Tang Black Ginseng, please visit puretang.com.
The bladder control aisle. You won't shop here again. Your private business is your own. The constant struggle is over. Now there's a better way. It's HSI-ICE. We home deliver bladder control products. We understand how you feel. For over 25 years, we've home delivered to many of the 20 million Americans who deal with incontinence. We offer all brands. We pay shipping and use plain, unmarked boxes. If we can help you or someone you care for, call for your free product sample pack and $45 in money-saving coupons. Our counselors will help you choose the right product. And unlike stores, we're always in stock. You'll get what you need. Satisfaction guaranteed. HDIS, the better way.
For your free sample pack with your free catalog, $45 in money-saving coupons, and free product samples, call 1-800-701-6159. That's 1-800-701-6159.
Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. President Trump calls off all trade talks with Canada. Why? And what he tells NTD about the major impact of a win at the Supreme Court this morning. The Supreme Court also has two important rulings with regard to kids' exposure to online pornography and LGBTQ storybooks. President Trump ends trade talks with Canada. He says it's in response to Canada's announcement of a digital services tax on American tech companies. President Trump is meeting with the foreign ministers of Congo and Rwanda after both countries signed a peace agreement in Washington, D.C. 4 suspects have been arrested in the nation's largest COVID tax fraud scheme. Investigators say the suspects stole millions and later turned on each other in a violent plot twist. A former aide to New York Governor Kathy Hochul and former Governor Andrew Cuomo is facing new federal fraud charges. Linda Sun was already accused of acting as an unregistered agent for the Chinese regime.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us. The U.S. Supreme Court issued major rulings recently. The decisions revolve around LGBT books and children's exposure to pornographic websites. NTD's David Lam has more.
2 major rulings came out of the U.S. Supreme Court on Friday. In Maryland, for religious reasons, parents can opt their young children out of school storybook lessons that promote LGBT lifestyles.
Another great decision that came down today, the trans books case, which restores parents' rights to decide their child's education. Seems like a basic idea, but it took the Supreme Court to set the record straight, and we thank them for that. And now that ruling allows parents to opt out.
It was a 6-3 decision that reversed an appeal that claimed a school board's policy didn't infringe on parents' constitutional right to religious exercise.
I think it's a great ruling for parents. It's really a ruling for parents. They lost control of the schools. They lost control of their child. And this is a tremendous victory for parents.
The Supreme Court also upheld a Texas law that requires age verification to access pornographic websites. It requires users to present government-issued ID with the aim of blocking minors from explicit content. David Lam, NTD News.
President Trump calls off all trade talks with Canada over a new Canadian tax that he says is targeting U.S. companies. He also secures a major win at the Supreme Court, telling NTD that it will empower future presidents. Joining us now live is NTD's White House correspondent, Iris. Good afternoon. First, tell us about the president's latest trade decision with Canada.
Good afternoon to you as well, Don. So in a true social post, President Trump announced this afternoon that he is ending all trade talks with Canada effective immediately. And that is in response to a new digital services tax in Canada that's set to take effect on Monday. Specifically, that tax is a 3% tax on revenue that big tech companies like Google and Amazon make from Canadian customers. And President Trump says that is an egregious tax, adding that it's targeting and blatantly attacking the U.S. And in response, President Trump also threatens new tariffs against Canada, saying that he will let Canada know in the coming 7 days about how much tariff they need to pay to the U.S. when doing business with the U.S. And this morning, and Trump acknowledges that as many countries are still trying to negotiate a trade deal with the U.S., some of them will just need to be told a new tariff rate that the U.S. will charge them for doing business with the country. Here's what he said this morning. Watch.
But, you know, we have 200 countries, you could say 200 countries plus. We can't do that. So at a certain point over the next week and a half or so, or maybe before, we're going to send out a letter. We talked to many of the countries, and we're just going to tell them what they have to pay to do business in the United States. And it's going to go very quickly.
The Trump administration does have an early July target for striking trade deals with many of these countries in negotiations with the U.S. And President Trump has been touting progress when it comes to deals with, for example, India and China. But of course, remains to be seen if in the coming days more deals or direct tariff rates will be announced by the president. And we will hear from the president more this afternoon as he hosts the foreign ministers of Rwanda as well as Congo at the White House this afternoon. And that's to celebrate and tout his involvement in the peace deal between the two countries facilitated by the U.S. Don.
And Iris, aside from trade, the president secured a major win from the Supreme Court this morning. Tell us more about that.
Sure. So in a 6-3 ruling this morning, the Supreme Court limited lower courts' ability to issue nationwide injunctions against President Trump's executive actions. And that is a major win for President Trump, who we know that has been hit with numerous injunctions since day one. Actually, Trump said himself that he's been hit with more injunctions than all the ones issued in the 20th century combined. And in the press conference this morning with us, President Trump told NTD that he believes today's decision gives the power back to the American people, the Congress, as well as future presidents. Watch. Iris Howe with NTD Research Media with the Epoch Times. Thank you so much for doing this. It's very refreshing for all of us here in this room.
It's refreshing.
Very refreshing. Yes, we haven't had this in,
I understand what you mean.
So thank you so much for coming out here.
Other than Caroline's done a great job.
Yes,
You're referring to the past administration, not to Caroline, right?
Yes. Back to the ruling today, if you don't mind. So you have always talked about winning for the American people.
Right.
How do you think today's ruling will enable you to further deliver for American families and workers across the country, not only when it comes to immigration, but also when it comes to trade, energy? What actions are most eager to move forward?
Well, I think taking power away from these absolutely crazy radical left judges is a tremendous. This is such a big day. This is such a big day. It's like. It's sort of sad because we're doing the signing at 3 o'clock, and this may very well dominate the signing of a big war that was going on and really affecting the continent of. Think of it, the entire continent of Africa was being affected, and we're settling that war today, and this will probably be a headline. But this is a very big moment, and it gives power back to people that should have it, including Congress, including the presidency.
And well, today's ruling is issued in the case around a birthright citizenship debate. This ruling actually goes beyond just that topic. It will limit the court's ability to issue nationwide injunctions against President Trump's actions, and also means, of course, when it comes to birthright citizenship itself, that the practice of automatically granting U.S. citizenship to the children of illegal immigrants will come to an end. For example, in the 28 states that did not challenge the order initially. And Attorney General Pam Bondi also at the press conference today, while touting the latest court decision, also criticized nationwide judges that try to rule against Trump, and saying that they're trying to act like emperors to seize the power of the executive branch. Watch.
94 districts and 35 out of the 40 opinions with nationwide injunctions came from 5 liberal districts in this country. No longer will we have rogue judges striking down President Trump's policies across the entire nation.
And the president, during the wide-ranging press conference this morning, also talked about Iran. He reiterated that he believes nothing was removed, i.e. no enriched uranium was removed from Iran's nuclear sites before the U.S. strikes, and that the U.S. strikes using bunker buster bombs have completely obliterated Iran's nuclear enrichment, as well as enrichment of uranium, as well as nuclear capabilities. Back to you.
Iris, thank you. And with less than a week until the July 4th deadline, the Senate is still not ready to vote on President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill. Our Washington correspondent Luis Martinez breaks down the latest.
No, we're not. The House will not be jammed by anything. I've made that commitment. So I have been doggedly determined to get this done by July 4th, as has the president. And the reason is, to answer your question, because we want to do it as soon as possible. This bill is going to be jet fuel to the U.S. economy.
Speaker of the House Mike Johnson remains optimistic that Republican lawmakers will meet their July 4th deadline and send the reconciliation bill to the president's desk for signing next week. For that to happen, lawmakers will have to work over the weekend, with the earliest expected vote happening this Saturday.
We'll allow at least 72 hours, which is our normal process. That's not required under the rules, but it would certainly be a courtesy for everyone to be able to go through it. I hope that what we're going to receive is a product that is substantially similar to what we sent over in the House.
Thursday night, the Senate parliamentarians struck out of the reconciliation bill key provisions that Republicans had already agreed on. For example, private school vouchers, restricting Affordable Care Act subsidies for abortions, requiring proof of citizenship to receive Medicare benefits, and gun silencer and concealed carry deregulation all have been removed from the bill.
I understand the frustration, but I actually think we're going to be able to work through this. One example of that is originally the not allowing SNAP benefits to illegal immigrants was bounced, and now that's back in. So I'm pretty confident we're going to work through these and get the savings that we want, make sure illegal immigrants aren't getting their taxpayer benefits, and ultimately still delivering on all the things for American families. I'm still hopeful.
The Senate will vote this Friday on Democratic Senator Tim Kaine's War Powers Act resolution that seeks to restrict the president's authority to wage war. This is despite overwhelming Republican pushback and despite lawmakers having been briefed on classified intelligence regarding the strikes on Iran.
I think it's safe to say that we have struck a major blow alongside our friends in Israel against Iran's nuclear program.
In technical terms, we knocked the living crap out of our 3 targets. This was a good briefing. It was one of the best I've ever attended.
I'm almost sorry I went to this briefing because almost everything that was there is in the public domain. There has been no evidence presented in the public domain. Let's just talk about the public domain that talks about obliterated.
On the House side, Congressman Thomas Massie withdrew his War Powers Act resolution, citing the enduring ceasefire between Israel and Iran as proof that the resolution is unnecessary. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
Coming up, 4 suspects have been arrested in the nation's largest COVID tax fraud scheme. Investigators say the suspects stole millions and later turned on each other in a violent twist. We have that and more after the break.
What if you could whiten your teeth by simply brushing your teeth? Now you can with Smile Actives, the teeth whitening breakthrough that safely gets your teeth white and keeps them white every day, just by brushing your teeth.
I never thought that whitening my teeth could be so easy. I just put the gel on the brush, the toothpaste on it, brush, and I can see my white teeth.
Simply add Smile Actives to any toothpaste and our patented PolyClean technology activates into a powerful microfoam that penetrates into the enamel surface to safely lift and remove stains.
You need a simple way to whiten your teeth. Without strips, without trays, without going to the dentist. And it was about time that a product was developed that you would be able to do that with just brushing.
And now, Smile Actives is even better with new Pro Whitening Gel with 33% greater whitening power, clinically shown to whiten teeth faster, up to 8 shades. 100% of users saw whiter teeth. On food stains, coffee and wine stains, even on veneers, crowns, and dentures.
I eat the blueberries, I drink the coffee, and I know that Smile Actives will keep my teeth white every day.
If you could use something so easy like Smile Actives to take yellow teeth to white teeth, why wouldn't you?
Why spend hundreds of dollars for whitening treatments at the dentist when now you can whiten your teeth with new Smile Actives Pro Whitening Gel every time you brush your teeth? Call or go to smileactives.com and for a limited time get new Pro Whitening Gel for just $24.95. Order in the next 5 minutes and buy one, get one absolutely free for just $24.95. That's 2 for 1 and save 58%. We'll even include free shipping. Get your teeth whiter guaranteed or return it within 60 days for your money back.
I smile every day now.
the difference is literally night and day.
So now I'm always smiling, always choosing, because now my teeth are much whiter.
This offer is not available in stores, so call or click now before the special buy one get one free offer goes away.
To celebrate our newest launch, Rev 7, I'm bringing you an amazing introductory offer, plus an exclusive overstock sale that you're not going to want to miss. Rev 7 is our premium energy drink that tastes great and gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. That's because there's no sugar and no caffeine. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7 that for a limited time you can try our 3-pack absolutely free. Or check out our Percale bed sheets. I can't believe I'm even going to say this. Every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes only $29.88, even the queens and kings. Inventory is extremely limited, so order now.
4 Southern California residents are accused of running the nation's largest COVID tax fraud scheme. They allegedly stole nearly $100 million by filing fake tax returns over several years. NTD's Christina Corona has the details.
4 Southern California suspects have been charged with allegedly stealing $93 million in a COVID-related tax fraud scheme. The suspects are Christopher Turner, 52, Toriano Knox, 55, Kenya Jones, 46, and Joyce Johnson, 55. Investigators say they submitted fraudulent claims for at least 148 companies, that many of which didn't exist. They targeted pandemic relief programs that reimbursed businesses for wages paid to employees who couldn't work. Prosecutors say Turner organized the scheme and directed others to recruit people to join. Those recruits then handed over personal information used to create fake businesses and file false returns. The suspects deposited government checks into fake business accounts. Turner took 20 to 40% of each payment. Officials say the group tried to steal nearly $250 million in total tax refunds. However, in 2023, Knox and Jones allegedly tried to kill Turner to stop him from cooperating with authorities. Turner was shot multiple times in Gardena, California, and is now paralyzed. If convicted, all 4 could get up to 20 years in prison for each mail fraud count. Knox and Jones also face life in prison and up to 30 years for attempted murder. Christina Corona, NTD News.
Kilmar Abrego Garcia will stand trial in the United States before any attempt is made to deport him again. That's according to the White House after confusion over whether officials were planning or preparing to send him to a third country. Abrego Garcia is accused of leading a years-long human smuggling ring, allegedly bringing people from Central and South America into the U.S. through Mexico, many of them linked to the MS-13 gang. He pleaded not guilty earlier this month. His lawyers say the government's case is weak and built on unreliable testimony from people already facing prosecution. The Salvadorian national was deported in March despite a federal order barring his removal. The Supreme Court later ruled that the Trump administration must facilitate his return to the U.S. A judge said she would order Abrego Garcia's release without bail, though he is expected to be taken into immigration custody immediately afterward. White House officials say Abrego Garcia will be held accountable in court, and if convicted, he'll serve his sentence in a U.S. prison. 3 suspects have been charged with assaulting federal law enforcement and other offenses at ICE protests in Portland. They made their first appearances in federal court yesterday. Police say several individuals gathered near an ICE office in South Portland on Tuesday. The site has been repeatedly targeted for weeks. Authorities say protesters have made threats, used pepper spray, and thrown rocks, trash, and bricks. Julie Winters of Portland faces felony charges alleging she tried to assault federal officers with a knife. Police say she also tried to light an incendiary device next to a guard shack. Aziel Chambers of Maryland, Oregon, is accused of using a laser pointer against an officer. Rachel Jean Pope, also of Portland, allegedly threw a gas canister at officers. Guatemala and the United States signed a joint security partnership agreement yesterday. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem discussed the deal aimed at strengthening capabilities against transnational threats. Listen.
This joint security partnership will allow us to share background information, biometric data sharing, criminal vetting, and also individuals and security protocols at our airports, at our ports, at our borders, and also between our intelligence agencies so that we can better protect the families that live in our countries.
The agreement allows U.S. immigration agents to operate in Guatemala and have access to information on those entering and leaving the country. It also includes better cooperation against drug trafficking and setting up anti-narcotics border patrols. Guatemala was the last stop in Noem's Central American tour following visits to Costa Rica and Honduras. President Trump confirmed a new trade agreement with Beijing. However, Trump made the announcement yesterday without giving further details. He told reporters the U.S. was starting to open up China, saying it was something that, quote, never really could have happened.
We just signed with China yesterday, right? Just signed with China. We have everybody. We're not going to make deals with everybody. Some we're just going to send them a letter, say, thank you very much. You're going to pay 25, 35, 45%. That's the easy way to do it. And my people don't want to do it that way. They want to do some of it, but they want to make more deals than I would do. But we're having some great deals. We have one coming up, maybe with India, very big one, where we're going to open up India. In the China deal, we're starting to open up China, things that never really could have happened. And the relationship with every country has been very good.
In the meantime, Beijing says it will approve exports of controlled items to the United States. A Chinese spokesperson said the U.S. will lift a series of restrictive measures imposed on China. U.S. and Chinese commerce officials agreed on a trade agreement framework in London earlier this month. The spokesperson said the ministry was responding to a journalist's question about accelerating rare earth exports to the United States. The ministry's response did not explicitly mention rare earths. The White House didn't immediately respond to a question for comment. China has been dragging its feet on approving U.S. requests for rare earth minerals, despite promising to ease exports just 2 weeks ago. American firms say they're stuck waiting weeks for responses, with many applications outright denied. Here's more.
And it's not just finished magnets. U.S. companies say requests for the raw materials needed to make them are also facing major delays. That's forcing manufacturers to scramble. Some are even paying extra for air freight just to keep production running. Many in the industry now worry the delays could be long-term, despite assurances from the White House that exports would return to normal. One rare earth analyst notes that although China may have lifted restrictions on paper, certain bureaucratic procedures are still slowing down approvals. Analysts say the situation shows how Beijing can tighten its grip on U.S. supply chains and hurt American businesses when it wants to. China produces 90% of the world's strongest rare earth magnets used in EVs and fighter jets. In May, exports of those magnets to the U.S. fell by 93% compared to last year. Washington accuses China of stalling export licenses, but Beijing claims it's simply trying to keep the materials out of military hands. What's more, the Wall Street Journal says China is making companies hand over lists of their tech experts. That way, they don't share anything with foreigners seeking independence from Beijing's rare earth supply chains. One U.S. magnet importer says it's getting painfully expensive just to keep factories running. If the current pace continues, American manufacturers may face increasing pressure in the months ahead. Despite the challenges with China over rare earths, the U.S. might finally have a chance to bring some refining back home. In Oklahoma, a nickel refining machine was recently uncovered. It's a big step towards breaking China's grip on this key energy metal. The facility hopes to turn Oklahoma into a hub for processing critical U.S. minerals, a sector that's been dormant for decades.
When we come back, while U.S. officials appear to rule out direct involvement for a regime change, the prospect still remains in the country. A former aide to New York Governor Kathy Hochul and former Governor Andrew Cuomo is facing new federal fraud charges. Linda Sun was already accused of acting as an unregistered agent for the Chinese regime. Find out more after the break.
Big things are happening at Mathis Home. Their everyday low prices are now even better. Shop price drop alerts and save up to 25% off store-wide. Shop the latest looks in dining rooms, all at big savings. This set is a great deal, perfect for family get-togethers. You get the table and 4 side chairs for just $7.99 in your choice of finishes. They have over 100 dining sets in stock with fast and free delivery. Look for price drop alert tags and save now at your furniture superstore, Mathis Home.
Inflation is still driving up home repair costs. How are millions of homeowners saving money on unexpected bills? With Choice Home Warranty.
Is a new refrigerator in your budget? How about a replacement AC unit? I'm Ty Pennington. For many families, these costs can be catastrophic. That's why I'm a Choice Home Warranty customer. They've saved millions of homeowners from unexpected repair bills with an affordable monthly plan that provides peace of mind and helps avoid surprise expenses. Call now to protect your home with Choice Home Warranty and get your first month free.
Choice Home Warranty offers plans that cover repair or replacement on up to 25 essential home systems and appliances. Protect your budget with a customizable Choice Home Warranty.
We've been a Choice Home Warranty customer for almost 9 years.
And we couldn't be more happy with their service that we get from Choice Home Warranty.
Unexpected home repairs can quickly eat into your savings. It wastes time and fills you with stress. Choice Home Warranty is the most trusted name in home warranty. Call now to lock in a low monthly rate.
Choice Home Warranty has a nationwide network of more than 25,000 trusted technicians. When I have a breakdown, they always have the right contractor to get me taken care of quickly. I just pay a low monthly fee and they pay for the covered repairs.
Choice Home Warranty has been a great company to work with, and they've taken care of us. I would suggest anybody who lives in a home not to be in a home without him.
It's time to protect your hard-earned money with an affordable plan from Choice Home Warranty. Call right now for the peace of mind you and your family deserve. Call Choice Home Warranty now.
Protect your home and your wallet with Choice Home Warranty. Call now to get a free quote, your first month free, and save $10 a month for the first year. Call 800-983-4585, 800-983-4585, or go to choicehome.com.
Focus on beauty, showcase nature, share kindness, feel brightness. 2025, the 5th NTD International Photography Competition. Capture the beautiful moments in your eyes. Your works will be showcased in galleries and on multiple online platforms, appreciated and collected. Please visit photo.ntdtv.com.
The Israeli military said today that the IDF had exceeded their operational goals in some areas. Despite the reported successes, it says it needs to remain vigilant.
Yet, we are under no illusion. The enemy has not changed its intentions. Through this operation, we were able to achieve our objective to prevent an existential threat to Israel, the region, and the Western world. We remain alert on all fronts. We are preparing for a variety of scenarios and continuing to operate against Hamas in Gaza alongside our efforts to return all hostages. The mission is not yet complete. 50 hostages remain in captivity.
Israel attacked Iran on June 13th, targeting its nuclear sites, defense systems, high-ranking military officials, and atomic scientists. Israel said it killed around 30 Iranian commanders and 11 nuclear scientists in 12 days of strikes. It also hit 8 nuclear-related facilities and more than 720 military infrastructure sites. Israel's Air Force carried out intense airstrikes today in the south of Lebanon. It says it targeted underground assets of the Hezbollah terrorist group. The Israeli military also released a video today showing what it says are troops operating in northern Gaza. A second video shows the dismantling of a tunnel. The military said the tunnel was used by terrorists in 2014 to kill 4 Israeli soldiers. While U.S. officials appear to rule out direct involvement for a regime change in Iran, the prospect still remains in the country. Opposition figures and groups abroad continue to push for tougher international pressure on the regime. NTD's international correspondent David Vivez reports from Paris.
The possibility of regime change in Iran seems increasingly absent from international discussion.
While President Donald Trump posted on June 22nd, if the current Iranian regime is unable to make Iran great again, why wouldn't there be a regime change? He later walked back that statement and said he wants to see everything calm down. Still, inside and outside Iran, the idea of regime change garners support as the country faces economic collapse and entrenched repression under the mullah's regime. Reports from officials and activists said Tehran has intensified mass arrests, executions and military deployments, particularly in the restive Kurdish region since the end of the 12-day war. According to Shahin Nezad, spokesperson for the Iran Resurgence Movement, Israel's strikes have been welcomed by much of the Iranian population, especially since they targeted regime infrastructure and government figures linked to the violent suppression of protesters. However, he warns that while a ceasefire may serve peace in the region, it could be disastrous for the Iranian people as the regime will strengthen its position.
They can claim that they have won the war. Yeah, they didn't surrender, and now they can give a hell to everyone who opposed them in the past several years. And now they've got the excuse. You are Mossad agent. You are CIA agent. So people who had been arrested before, and we were worried about them, same people might be executed easily because the level of suppression and dictatorship goes to another level.
Iran's men's opposition organizations outside the country, such as the Iranian Resurgence Movement, the Shah's son, exiled Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi, and the National Council of Resistance of Iran, or NCRI, believe that change is possible through tougher policies against the regime and stronger support for the Iranian people. According to NCRI spokesperson Shaheen Gobadi, appeasement would be the worst-case scenario.
The fact of the matter is that every penny, every dime, every dollar that this regime gets is either used to repress the Iranian people or to finance terrorist groups or to advance nuclear and ballistic missiles, or it is plundered by the mullahs, regime's leaders and the commanders of the IRGC.
Both NCRI and the Iran Resurgence Movement strongly oppose the JCPOA, the Iran nuclear deal brokered under the Obama administration and supported by the EU. Gobadi says the policy failed to curb terrorism or halt Iran's nuclear ambitions.
There has been 5 nationwide uprisings in Iran since December 2017, and each of them getting more inclusive, stronger, and more people involved. The last round in September 22, all the way to the early 2023, was in all 31 provinces of Iran in some 300 cities and towns. It gives you a good sentiment that how the change would come. It definitely would be through an uprising by the Iranian people, and as I said, looking at the trajectory and the trend, this is inevitable.
Some analysts warn that the collapse of the mullah's regime could open the door to chaos, which may not serve the interests of Israel or the United States. But opposition groups like NCRI and Iran Resurgence stress that they, along with many Iranians, seek democracy, a secular state, and restored ties with Western nations. David Vives, NTD News, Paris.
A former aide to New York Governor Kathy Hochul and former Governor Andrew Cuomo is facing new federal fraud charges. Linda Sun was already accused of acting as an unregistered agent for the Chinese regime. The new indictment alleges Sun and her husband steered millions in COVID-era state contracts to companies tied to her family, while serving as a diversity officer under Governor Cuomo. Prosecutors say she added 2 China-linked companies to a list of recommended vendors, one run by her second cousin, the other by her husband. They say she also altered an email from a Chinese official to boost her cousin's surgical mask business. Between March and June 2020, New York wired nearly $45 million to those companies. Sun and her husband allegedly pocketed more than $2 million in kickbacks. Sun's lawyer said she will vigorously contest the allegations. German regulators have asked Apple and Google to remove Chinese AI startup DeepSeek from German app stores. The country is concerned about its citizens' data protection. The German Data Protection Commissioner said she made the request because DeepSeek illegally transfers users' personal data to China. She said the 2 tech giants must review the request promptly and decide whether to block the app in Germany. According to its own privacy policy, DeepSeek stores numerous pieces of personal data on computers in China. She said DeepSeek has not provided her agency with enough evidence showing the data is sufficiently protected. She added that Chinese authorities have far-reaching access rights to user data from Chinese companies. Czech military intelligence reveals Chinese diplomats and Secret Service followed Taiwan's vice president-elect Xiao Mei-chin and planned to intimidate her physically when she visited Prague last year.
Regarding this situation, Taiwan's security agencies have a complete grasp on the situation back then. Of course, we want to thank the Czech authorities again for assisting in protecting and safeguarding the vice president while she was visiting. We strongly condemn China's complete disregard of international conventions and their illegal actions creating trouble and risks for the international community.
Xiao visited the Czech Republic in March 2024. Czech media reported last year that a Chinese diplomat had run a red light when following her car. A Czech news website said Chinese nationals also planned to stage a car crash. A Czech military intelligence spokesman said Chinese diplomats in Prague had taken actions that violate diplomatic rules. The spokesperson said the Chinese group followed the vice president, and gathered information on her schedule and attempted to document her meetings with Czech political and public representatives. A spokesperson for China's foreign ministry denied any wrongdoing by Chinese diplomats and said the Czech Republic interfered in China's internal affairs by allowing the Taiwanese vice president's visit. Lured to Cambodia, tortured, and forced to defraud strangers online, a Thai teenager said he barely survived after he threw himself from an 8th-floor window to escape one of the Southeast Asian nations' prison-like scam compounds. Here's more.
If, hypothetically, you want to go work over there, I recommend you don't go. It's for your own safety, for your life. If you make a mistake there someday, you might never come back.
This Thai teenager, who only wanted to be identified by the nickname Louis, told Reuters he was lured to a scam center in Cambodia, tortured and forced to defraud strangers online. A report from human rights group Amnesty International on Thursday points to, quote, a series of state failures in Cambodia that led it to emerge as a hub for the global scam industry during the pandemic. At this time, mostly Chinese-led gangs repurposed empty casinos and hotels as scam centers, housing up to 100,000 people, according to the UN. Similar compounds flourished in Myanmar and Laos. Amnesty's report says the gangs first trick trafficking victims with fake job offers posted on social media and then force them to financially exploit people online, often through fake romances.
I was told by Scam Center staff that this job is a dark side job, a job to deceive people. I was shocked, thinking, what should I do? I felt pressured and thought I couldn't do it. They told me to try the job for a week, around 7 days, and if I couldn't do it, they would take me somewhere else. But in the end, they sold me off.
The Amnesty report accuses Cambodia's government of deliberately ignoring abuses by cybercrime gangs that have trafficked people from across the world, including children, into slavery. The Cambodian government has rejected the allegations, saying the report was exaggerated. The scam industry in Cambodia now generates more than $12.5 billion annually, according to the United States Institute for Peace. On Wednesday, Louis told Reuters that he endured brutal conditions for almost a year. He said buildings were surrounded by high walls and barbed wire, and trafficked workers were cruelly punished and guarded by men with electric batons.
The workplace was hot and stuffy, oppressive, and we were constantly monitored. The work was incredibly hard. We typed until our eyes were tired and blurry. If we weren't working, someone would report us. It was like someone was watching all the time. There were bosses who controlled us.
Reuters was unable to independently verify Louis' account, but details match stories from trafficking survivors published by numerous groups. Louis says he threw himself from a window in a desperate bid for freedom and was able to escape while in hospital.
When I jumped, I was on the 8th floor going to the 5th. I jumped and then my chin split open. My mouth filled with blood, it was everywhere, and my teeth were broken. Then I passed out and my leg was limping. When I woke up, I was already in the hospital.
Still to come, we speak to an attorney and director of the National Center on Sexual Exploitation about a Texas law that could protect children from pornographic content online. That and more after the break.
If joint pain from aging is slowing you down, Omega XL can help you get back in the saddle, just like it did for John Walsh.
Today I'm here at my ranch exercising some of my polo ponies. Got to be really fit to ride these horses. So as you get older, it gets tougher. I was starting to suffer some of that business, and then I ran into somebody who said, look, you should try Omega XL, and look what it's done. I feel better than I've felt in the last 30 years.
I'm Reve Walsh. I'm John Walsh's wife. I ride fox hunters, and sometimes I'm in the saddle for 3-5 hours at a time. A lot of work out here.
I wouldn't have been able to do this. Muck a stall, throw hay, do all the things that needs to be done on a ranch a couple years ago. But Omega XL gave me the ability to get back in the saddle. It works great.
Once you try it, you don't want to be without it. Makes a huge difference.
It does. Take it every single day, and you know, there's a benefit. It's made you a lot nicer to me.
If you've been living with pain, it's time to get this special offer, the Omega XL, the joint health supplement that millions have trusted for more than 20 years. Omega XL, it's sourced from the green-lipped mussel, exclusively found in the pristine waters of New Zealand, some of the cleanest waters on Earth. Omega XL, it's natural, drug-free, and it's backed by more than 40 years of clinical research that show it really works. Try Omega XL today. Pick up your phone and call the number at the bottom of your screen right now for a special offer. Buy one, get two free. 2 bottles of Omega XL plus Vitamin XL D3, a value of more than $100. But call today and you pay only $39.95. That's a savings of more than 60%. Plus, it's backed by our 60-day money-back guarantee.
Try it. You got nothing to lose.
Call or go online right now to get this special offer. 2 bottles of Omega XL plus Vitamin XL D3 for only $39.95. Call now.
According to ancient Chinese medicine, purslane is considered a medicinal herb and is used to help lower cholesterol, improve vascular functions, and prevent diabetes. Perilla seeds can nourish the lungs and spleen. It is used to treat asthma and improve pulmonary functions. Puritang green vegetable omega-3 is made from purslane and perilla seeds from Hwangmae Mountain in South Korea. It contains over 90% of omega-3, 6, 7, and 9, the highest concentration possible without chemical additives. The soft gel is made of natural seaweed. It is 100% organic and vegan. Both adults and children can take it with peace of mind. Ancient recipes were passed down from heaven to bring prosperity and longevity. Puritang green vegetable omega-3.
And joining us now is Danny Pinter, Senior Vice President and Director of the Law Center at the National Center on Sexual Exploitation. Danny, thank you so much for joining us today. Now, as you already know, the Supreme Court upheld a Texas law that requires age verification, access to pornographic websites. What was their reasoning and your reaction?
Yeah, so the court had a very common sense reasoning, which is that this law does not overburden adult speech. So adults can still access the speech, and age verification is just an incidental burden to that, and states have the right to protect children. So the court applied intermediate scrutiny and said that this is a constitutional application of the state's power to protect children from obscene content online. We're very excited about this decision. I think this spells a new internet age and in which children can actually be protected from harmful content.
Okay, can you elaborate on that point? How are children going to be protected? What real life differences will this make for the safety of children?
Well, this law is immediately in effect right now. And so, at least in Texas, every single website that applies, every single website that has pornographic content will have to implement age verification to keep kids off immediately. And importantly, 21 other states in the United States have passed similar laws. So, while some of those have been challenged, it's almost a certainty that if they're close to the Texas law, they're going to be constitutional. So, I think a lot of those challenges will fall away, and we'll probably see a lot more age verification bills passed in the rest of the 50 states.
I mean, have come into contact with any parents so far? What are they saying about this? How do they feel?
Parents are celebrating. So our organization runs a coalition of parents and child safety organizations, and everyone is cheering and celebrating and even having tears of joy, finally feeling like their kids are going to be protected, because for so long, parents have felt that no matter what they do, they try to do filters, they try to lock down children's devices, but these websites are so easily available. Now it's the website's responsibility to keep kids off, and they finally feel that their kids are going to be protected.
Do you think this is something we'll expect to see being rolled out across the country?
Exactly. I think exactly that. I think it won't be long before all 50 states have this, and we could even see a federal law.
Could you also talk to us about the average age of exposure, to this kind of content in the U.S., and talk to us about the real life implications of this?
Yeah, so we now know from the research that the age of exposure is somewhere between 8 and 10 years old, which is extremely young, especially because the content has become very, very hardcore, very extreme. So now you have 8, 9, 10-year-olds being exposed to the most hardcore, explicit, and sometimes even violent content imaginable. And the research is also showing that is harmful. There is almost conclusive research that shows that this affects children's brains, it affects their development, and it can actually shrink certain areas of the brain, hamper development, hamper their decision-making capabilities. It's a lot of support for it being addictive, and then affecting the ability to have relationships, to make good decisions, to see others with empathy. And it's been connected with engaging in risky behavior and even violent sexual behavior. So I think we now are contending with a generation of children who have grown up on exposure to this content. And we also see a lot of distress from our young people right now, feeling like they're having trouble in relationships. And I hope this means that starting today, we can reverse some of that harm.
Okay, so earlier you said parents are very happy about this because they've tried filters and other methods. But is age verification enough to protect children from these sites? I'm just wondering, or are there other protections that needs to be added on top of that?
It's not enough. No, I agree with you. I think, it's a mosaic of protections that we need. If you think about a car and all the ways that cars are dangerous, we want seatbelts, but we also want airbags. We want to regulate the way the car is built. We want to make sure the parts are safe and that all kinds of regulations are in place. And I think we need that same kind of wraparound when it comes to internet safety. So this just marks the first step in even an ability to protect kids online. Because before this, we felt there was nothing we could do. And now we know at least some things will be constitutional. So I think this is just the beginning, but there will be more things we need to do to keep kids safe online. Absolutely.
And let me just follow up on another point from earlier that you mentioned. How did the court interpret the First Amendment? You touched on this earlier. Yes. In relation to restricting access to adult content online for minors. Can you just elaborate a bit more on this point?
Yeah, so in addressing the free speech challenge, the court said the Texas law targeted only that content which is obscene as to minors. So because the content targeted by the law is obscene as to minors, this obscene content gets less protection than other content. And also the court said that the law does not overburden the speech of adults. So adults may have the right to access this speech, but this law at least is not overburdening that. It is allowing adults to still access the speech while also preventing children from accessing speech, which is obscene. And so the court said that only triggered intermediate scrutiny and that this measure passed that level of scrutiny, that it was a reasonable restriction that did not overburden speech.
Okay, just one more thing. I don't want to take up too much of your time, Danny, but another point, did the court address the privacy concerns raised by the websites about requiring government-issued IDs for age verification?
So interestingly enough, the court did not get into the details of what age verification technologically will look like. The court was, it is important that the court noted that the Texas law was broad. It said government issued ID is one method, but it could be another method. It could be payment method or any commercially reasonable method. And so the court found because there was this broad way that websites could choose how they wanted to do it, and because they could use third-party vendors if they want, because there was all of these options essentially where the website itself could take into account privacy concerns, security concerns, technology concerns, the court was like, that is enough. This is generally age verification. It's not getting into the weeds of what that age verification looks like. And so the court did not decide, basically didn't make a ruling on whether there would be privacy concerns or not.
Okay, well, Danny, it's been so great having you with us today.
Thank you so much.
Meanwhile, in Italy, new technologies are helping firefighting aircraft battle wildfires across the country. They're welcome developments for a nation that experiences summertime blazes. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the details on this one.
A Canadair firefighting amphibian plane maneuvers around the hills northeast of Rome. The plane suddenly dips down and scoops up 1,500 gallons of water in a matter of seconds. Ground instructor Valerio De Martino demonstrates how the system works.
We have 2 probes, one per tank. These are the intakes which allow the water to flow in. When the pilot is about to touch the water, he calls for the drop down. And these scoops, one per tank, come out. And this area is where the water is taken in.
Pilot Marco Amort and his co-pilot are on a training exercise in preparation for a hot summer in Italy. With it, the risk of wildfires throughout the country. The pilot is in charge of flight operations at Avincis. The Lisbon-based company operates mainly in Spain, Italy, Portugal, but also Chile and South America. As fires rapidly spread, knowing what to do and when to do it is critical.
Some of us have been here 25th years, so you can imagine the experience accumulated by a captain of 25 years. And I don't think many have that experience. We are proud of this, and abroad, we are widely considered the best also, because our fleet is bigger than any other.
To counteract wildfire risks, new technologies are being employed, including the use of artificial intelligence. The new tech allows pilots to know the extent and location of the fire and how it is spreading. Roberto Marcolini details the new developments.
There are various initiatives. There are startups which are working on amphibious aircraft, using new technologies, integrating present firefighting methods with others which are not limited to scoopers, aircraft which release water, but with drones and unmanned aircraft which can carry out surveillance and control of fires and transmit information to coordinators of ground operations.
Wildfire season in Italy runs from May to October. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Dashcam video captured the moment when a meteor streaked across the sky in South Carolina yesterday. The American Meteor Society reported receiving over 160 eyewitness accounts of the sighting in South Carolina, as well as in the neighboring state of Georgia, a little past noon. NASA's Meteoroid Environment Office reported that a fireball exploded approximately 27 miles above West Forest, Georgia, producing loud booms heard by local residents. The Newton County Sheriff's Office in Georgia said they currently do not have any information on where the meteor may have landed. With more people out of work in China, a new trend is growing in cities like Beijing and Shanghai. Some companies are offering fake office spaces where unemployed people can spend time pretending to work. Let's take a look at that.
For a daily rental fee between $7 to $14, you get a desk, computer, Wi-Fi, drinks, and even lunch. These fake office spaces have become a surprising hit in China. Though no one actually works there, everyone acts like they're busy. Reservations are pouring in. Most customers are young adults, many still living with their parents. For them, it's a way to keep a daily routine and avoid the stress of staying home without a job. So why is demand so high? The job market in China is extremely tough right now. There's even a saying among university graduates, once I graduate, I'm unemployed. Last summer was called the hardest time to find a job in China. But this year could be worse. Over 12 million students are set to graduate. That's 430,000 more than last year. Official numbers say China's youth unemployment rate is 14.9%, but a 2024 report from the country's biggest job platform found nearly 45% of college grads are unemployed. Peking University professor Zhang Dandan says the rate may have reached 50% in early 2023. With Beijing tightening control over public data, getting accurate independent numbers is harder than ever.
Well, you know what they say, make it till you fake it, right? All right, next, the Justice Department has launched a civil rights investigation into the University of California's hiring system. It's looking to see if diversity practices at the university break federal anti-discrimination laws. Officials say the probe centers on the UC 2030 capacity plan. They say it encourages campuses to meet internal diversity goals using race and sex as hiring factors. The DOJ says such directives may violate Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which bars employment discrimination based on race and sex and other protected characteristics. Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon said public employers who rely on race-based hiring face serious legal risks. In a social media post, Dillon added, quote, "Identity-based hiring is not only wrong, it is illegal." The University of California has not responded to requests for comment, but a spokesperson told The Hill that the university intends to cooperate. Coming up, everything's bigger in Texas could include the largest energy and data center of its kind powered by nuclear, natural gas, and solar. We have that and more after the break.
My name is Iris Tao, and I'm NTD's White House correspondent. I was born in China, mainland China, so I grew up, kind of like absorbing a lot of the Chinese propaganda both in school, when it comes to newspapers, TV, and everything. But when I first came to the US, I moved here with my family, and then I was experiencing this cultural shock when I saw a lot of, let's say, human rights issues in China. So that's what kind of motivated me to actually start interning for NTD. In my current role, I actually report for both English NTD and Chinese NTD. So I think what drives me every day is a sense of responsibility, not only to the English audience, but also to the Chinese audience, which actually spreads both across the US, around the world, and actually a lot of them are inside China who uses like VPN or some other technologies to break through the firewall to watch NTD. So I think a big sense of responsibility comes from my urge to tell them what's happening, how China is being discussed on the world stage, how different governments are talking about China's human rights abuses. So I think NTD is one of the few, if not the only one, outlet, maybe not only in the US but across the world, where it's actually independent from any political party, economic forces, but most importantly, independent from the CCP's pressuring campaign. We know that, even if you're not a Chinese language outlet, you're an American outlet or like a foreign language outlet, it's very hard to, not be pressured by the Chinese Communist Party, given the many economic ties you might have. For example, you have a bureau in China, you have employees there, you have to gather news sources, so many kinds of channels where the CCP can actually influence your reporting. And I think that's what makes NTD's reporting unique when it comes to international affairs and also domestic policies, because it really matters to Americans in daily lives.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, I have an important message about security. Write down the number on your screen so you can call when I finish. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. This is a lock for your life insurance, a rate lock that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. But be careful. Many policies you see do not have one. But you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. Call this number to learn more. This plan was designed with a rate lock for people on a fixed income who want life insurance that fits their budget and is simple to get. Coverage options start at $9.95 a month, less than 35 cents a day. Act now, and your rate will be locked in for life. It will never increase, guaranteed. This is lifelong coverage that can never be canceled as long as you pay your premiums, guaranteed. And your acceptance is guaranteed, with no health questions. You cannot be turned down because of your health. Call for your information kit and read about this rate lock for yourself. You'll also get a free beneficiary planner. Both are free with no obligation. Don't miss out. Call for information, then decide. Read about the 30-day 100% money-back guarantee. Don't wait. Call this number now.
Call now and you'll also get this free beneficiary planner. Use this valuable guide to record important information and your final wishes, and it's yours free just for calling. So don't wait. Call 1-800-357-4821 for your free information. That's 1-800-357-4821. There's no risk or obligation. That number again is 1-800-357-4821. That's 1-800-357-4821. 1-800-357-4821. Call now.
Kids love it. Parents trust it. Obviously. Explore GJW Plus Kids Series and Gyeongjong Campus courses led by expert educators. This is spectacular. Children will learn values like respect, responsibility, and knowledge in language, science, and more. Wow. All while having fun. Perfect. Subscribe today at GJW Plus Kids, where learning meets fun.
I was a quarterback at Hardaway High School. College first-round draft pick. During the football season, I would stop eating. But I didn't know I was depressed. We didn't have any education behind what mental health was. I started to learn it starts here first. If this is together, I'll be better as a father and as a husband. We have to redefine what being a strong man is and heal, love your mind.
Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. Our stories today: President Trump calls off all trade talks with Canada. Why, and what he tells NTD about the impact of a major win at the Supreme Court ruling this morning. Everything's Bigger in Texas could include the largest energy and data center of its kind, powered by nuclear, natural gas, and solar. Nike is shifting some of its production from China, but before it can, the athletic wear company is warning it will take a $1 billion hit from U.S. tariffs. Tackling deepfakes by copyrighting people's personal features, Denmark introduces legislation that would allow citizen property rights over their likeness and voice in order to stop deepfakes. NATO countries agreeing to boost defense spending to 5% of GDP. How much are countries spending now, and what would it take to reach that target? Our data-driven report coming up.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us. President Trump calling off all trade talks with Canada over a new Canadian tax that he says is targeting U.S. companies. He also secures a major win at the Supreme Court, telling NTD that it will empower future presidents. NTD's White House correspondent Iris Tao has more on this.
So in a Truth Social post, President Trump announced this afternoon that he is ending all trade talks with Canada effective immediately. And that is in response to a new digital services tax in Canada that's set to take effect on Monday. Specifically, that tax is a 3% tax on revenue that big tech companies like Google and Amazon make from Canadian customers. And President Trump says that is an egregious tax, adding that it's targeting and blatantly attacking the U.S. And in response, President Trump also threatens new tariffs against Canada, saying that he will let Canada know in the coming 7 days about how much tariff they need to pay to the U.S. when doing business with the U.S. And this morning, and Trump acknowledges that as many countries are still trying to negotiate a trade deal with the U.S., some of them would just need to be told a new tariff rate that the U.S. will charge them for doing business with the country. Here's what he said this morning. Watch.
But, you know, we have 200 countries, you could say 200 countries plus. We can't do that. So at a certain point over the next week and a half or so, or maybe before, we're going to send out a letter. We talked to many of the countries, and we're just going to tell them what they have to pay to do business in the United States. And it's going to go very quickly.
The Trump administration does have an early July target for striking trade deals with many of these countries in negotiations with the U.S. And President Trump has been touting progress when it comes to deals with, for example, India and China. But of course, remains to be seen if in the coming days more deals or direct tariff rates will be announced by the president. And we will hear from the president more this afternoon as he hosts the foreign ministers of Rwanda as well as Congo at the White House this afternoon. And that's to celebrate and tout his involvement in the peace deal between the two countries facilitated by the U.S. Don.
And Iris, aside from trade, the president secured a major win from the Supreme Court this morning. Tell us more about that.
Sure. So in a 6-3 ruling this morning, the Supreme Court limited lower courts' ability to issue nationwide injunctions against President Trump's executive actions. And that is a major win for President Trump, who we know that has been hit with numerous injunctions since day one. Actually, Trump said himself that he's been hit with more injunctions than all the ones issued in the 20th century combined. And in the press conference this morning with us, President Trump told NTD that he believes today's decision gives the power back to the American people, the Congress, as well as future presidents. Watch. Iris Tao with NTD Research Media with the Epoch Times. Thank you so much for doing this. It's very refreshing for all of us here in this room.
It's refreshing.
Very refreshing. Yes, we haven't had this in,
I understand what you mean.
So thank you so much for coming out here.
Other than Caroline's done a great job.
Yes, sure.
You're referring to the past administration, not to Caroline, right?
Yes. Back to the ruling today, if you don't mind. So you have always talked about winning for the American people.
Right.
How do you think today's ruling will enable you to further deliver for American families and workers across the country, not only when it comes to immigration, but also when it comes to trade, energy? What actions are most eager to move forward?
Well, I think taking power away from these absolutely crazy radical left judges is a tremendous. This is such a big day. This is such a big day. It's like. It's sort of sad because we're doing the signing at 3 o'clock, and this may very well dominate the signing of a big war that was going on and really affecting the continent of. Think of it, the entire continent of Africa was being affected, and we're settling that war today, and this will probably be a headline. But this is a very big moment, and it gives power back to people that should have it, including Congress, including the presidency.
And well, today's ruling is issued in the case around a birthright citizenship debate. This ruling actually goes beyond just that topic. It will limit the court's ability to issue nationwide injunctions against President Trump's actions, and also means, of course, when it comes to birthright citizenship itself, and that the practice of automatically granting U.S. citizenship to the children of illegal immigrants will come to an end. For example, in the 28 states that did not challenge the order initially. And Attorney General Pam Bondi also at the press conference today, while touting the latest court decision, also criticized nationwide judges that try to rule against Trump, and saying that they're trying to act like emperors to seize the power of the executive branch. Watch.
94 districts and 35 out of the 40 opinions with nationwide injunctions came from 5 liberal districts in this country. No longer will we have rogue judges striking down President Trump's policies across the entire nation.
And the president, during the wide-ranging press conference this morning, also talked about Iran. He reiterated that he believes nothing was removed, i.e. no enriched uranium was removed from Iran's nuclear sites before the U.S. strikes, and that the U.S. strikes using bunker buster bombs have completely obliterated Iran's nuclear enrichment, as well as enrichment of uranium, as well as nuclear capabilities. Back to you.
Iris, thank you. President Trump is meeting the foreign ministers of Congo and Rwanda at the White House now after they signed a peace agreement earlier in Washington, D.C. Let's take a look.
Your administration doing, not only him, the entire Congolese people, they see that finally they will have hope. And President Tshisekedi also mentioned at the end of my interview that when peace finally comes to Democratic Republic of the Congo, he's thinking to nominate you as a Nobel Prize Peace, because he said you deserve, you have been working to bring peace in the world, not only at the Congo, and he's very hopeful to meet you in the future.
That's so nice, boy, and that's so beautifully stated. And Caroline said, number one, she did say, and I shouldn't say this because it's politically incorrect, she said, she's beautiful, and you are beautiful. Okay? I'm not allowed to say that, you know, that could be the end of my political career, but I say it anyway. But you are beautiful, and you're beautiful inside. So I wish I had more reporters like you. So you covered Africa for a long time?
Yes, for over 10 years.
Wow.
I cover even your first administration.
Yes, I know that. That's great. Well, thank you. That's so nice that you said that.
You.
Appreciate it.
And I have one more question,
Yes.
Mr. President. Since we know in July or in the future, both President of Rwanda and the Congo will be coming
Yes.
to the United States. In Africa, President João Lourenço, the president of Angola, he is also the leader of African Union.
Good.
He
Yes, I know.
worked very hard to bring peace, but unfortunately...
Let's get him here.
Yes, that's
okay?
right.
Would you invite him for me?
Of course.
Okay?
Of
No, we'll
course.
have. I know that he works very hard, and he's the head of essentially the union. So the union all over Africa, not the kind of union that we have. This is the union all over Africa, and I'd love to have him. So you'll let him know.
Of course,
Okay?
Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Good.
Mr.
Now you go back to where you belong,
Sure.
right? That's great. That's a great job. It's real knowledge and real heart, too. Congratulations. Okay. So we're here today to celebrate a glorious triumph, and that's what it is, for the cause of peace. And this is a long time waiting. The signing of a historic peace agreement between the Democratic Republic of the Congo and the Republic of Rwanda. The conflict has continued, and it's been going on for many, many years. It's been going from, I guess they say 30 years. The Great Lakes region of Africa for a long time, and maybe even a time before that. How is the Great Lakes region? Must be beautiful, right? Beautiful, beautiful region, but they had a lot of war, right? A lot of fighting, a lot of death. It's displaced countless people and claimed the lives of thousands and thousands. But today, the violence and destruction comes to an end, and the entire region begins a new chapter of hope and opportunity, harmony, prosperity, and peace. That's been a long time waiting. I said, how long has the war been going? And a friend of mine who's very much involved said 30 years, and at least 6 million people were killed during that period of time. It's incredible. And somebody said that was actually, it's the biggest war on the planet since World War II. So it's a shame, but we're going to bring it to an end. I want to express my gratitude and congratulations to the representatives of the Democratic Republic of the Congo and the Republic of Rwanda, who signed this pivotal agreement a short time ago. They just signed right in front. And let me also thank Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who has worked very hard on this subject, and we've worked on it together, for his outstanding leadership, as well as Senior Advisor for African and Africa Affairs, Mossad Boulos, who's, as you know, spends a lot of his time in Africa, and he's very comfortable there. I said, were you at all uncomfortable with all of the turmoil and all of the killing? And he said, no, I wasn't uncomfortable, and that's what you need. You need somebody that's going to be able to get. So, Mossad, I want to thank you very much for the job you've done. Amazing guy, actually. I also want to thank African Union, Qatar, Togo, for working closely with the United States. And I know Qatar was really working hard, and African Union, we just spoke about that. And I look forward to having them representatives here when we do the official meeting, and that'll be sometime in July. And we look forward to it. And you better be here covering it, okay? You better be. We're not going to stand anybody else covering it but you. But this is a tremendous breakthrough. In a few short months, we've now achieved peace between India and Pakistan, Israel and Iran, and the DRC and Rwanda, and a couple of others also. Serbia, you know, was they were getting ready to go to war with a group I won't even mention because it didn't happen. We were able to stop it, but I have a friend in Serbia, and they said we're going to go to war again. And I won't mention that it's Kosovo, but it's Kosovo. But they were going to have a big time war, and we stopped it. We stopped it because of trade. They want to trade with the United States. I said, we don't trade with people that go to war. And we said that also with, if you take a look at Pakistan and India, it was great. They have two great leaders, and they were able to stop. They were in the midst of a big fight, I guess everybody saw, and it was going to get very bad. And they are nuclear nations, very powerful nuclear nations. In the months and years ahead, my administration will continue to work closely with all of the parties in this deal and ensure the agreements are fully taken care of, and you're going to do what's in the agreement. We'll say you better do what's in that agreement, right? Because if somebody fails to do that, bad things happen. But I have a feeling that after 30 years, I think after 30 years, you're all set.
We are.
I think both of you have said that's enough, right?
That's enough. Yeah.
That's enough. You've seen it all. So this is a wonderful day. It's a great day. We've had some tremendous success. It's been a great week between just coming back from a very successful trip. NATO's really pulled together. They have. They're going to spend over $1 trillion a year. Nobody expected a thing like that to happen. And we had the war, as you know. We call it the 12-day war. It was exactly a 12-day war, and we ended up with no nuclear weapons. That's what we wanted. And they were just absolutely blown to pieces, those 3 sites. And there's no nuclear weapons, and hopefully there can be a lot of healing, and the healing is starting. And it's been a really pretty amazing week, and this is one that I really look forward to. This was set up a few weeks ago, and it was something that I really look forward to. If we can do this, and we do that because we have a certain competence that's good, we're able to get people to be peaceful. I think we can do war better than anybody, but we don't want to. And we have the greatest military in the world. They showed that in Iran. Those pilots, they flew for 36 hours. And think of that, and they hit their target. The size of this desk, half the size of this desk, from about 52,000 feet in the dark of night with no moon, 0 moon. They wanted it that way. Can you believe it? And they hit, every missile hit exactly half the size of this beautiful Resolute desk. We don't want to talk about it when it comes to rockets hitting it, but half the size of this, and they hit dead center from tremendous heights, going at tremendous speeds. It's amazing. Nobody could do a thing like that. Nobody has that weaponry, and nobody could do a thing like that. So we had a very busy and successful week, and in addition to that, our economy is doing great, setting records with the economy, and a lot of other good things happening. But this is about Congo and Rwanda. And I'd like to ask, if I might, would you say a few words before we introduce our guests?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes.
So, under your leadership, Mr. President, and the full support of Secretary Rubio and the entire team at the State Department, we engaged with the 2 parties in early April. And within 3 weeks, they signed the Declaration of Principles. And now, within about 2 months from that, we have signed today the final, this is actually the final peace agreement. You know, many people were wondering if this is preliminary. No, this is the actual final peace agreement that they've signed today. You have also expressed interest in inviting the heads of states to the White House for a signing ceremony. So there will be some other additional agreements that will be signed. In addition to this, which will become known as the Washington Accord with regards to the Great Lakes region.
That's great.
There are some economic...
Why not the Trump Accord?
If you wish.
I'm only kidding. That'd be headlines. I think that's a great thing. Washington Accord. Beautiful.
And there's an economic aspect as well that is extremely important for both countries. They have also worked, last week we finalized the regional economic integration framework, which both countries will be signing at the White House here during that ceremony. And
that's going to be a great ceremony.
Absolutely.
Right? We're going to make that a great ceremony and bring other people that were involved, some other people, besides the gentleman we talked about who we know has worked so hard. If you think there are other people that are deserving, let us know. Okay?
And there will be some bilateral agreements. We're negotiating a minerals deal with the DRC for critical minerals. Many American companies have shown interest in investing in the DRC, and these we're talking about long-term investments. Same thing with Rwanda. Many American companies have shown interest, and not only in mining, but also in the midstream and downstream, which will be the processing of minerals. We're also working and supporting the Lobito corridor, which will help building the infrastructure. Just 2 days ago, the United States signed, and supported a project of $1.5 billion for electric transmission from Angola to the DRC. And there are many other projects of that nature lined up. So we will be, under your leadership, Mr. President, will be working with the two countries very closely and with the support of Qatar to make sure that this agreement is implemented.
And a lot of our companies are in both of these countries now, especially since we've been getting along so well. It's probably the way we were brought together, and we have a lot of our big companies are there, between rare earth and all of the other things that they do in Africa, which is very greatly expanding, especially in these two countries. You have earth, they consider it to be about the best in the world, actually, I've heard. So we're doing a lot of different things, and it's all going to bring everybody together. That's how this all began, I guess. But the big thing is, the big thing for me is there's really only one thing, and that's getting a peace treaty with two countries that have been fighting for 30 years. And I want to thank you all. Will, if you could, yes, you could bring the letters over.
Of course, sir. So in front of you, as you said, sir, these are the actual agreements that were signed, respectively, by the foreign ministers of the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda earlier today, witnessed by Secretary Rubio. We've also prepared for you two letters. This is to President Paul Kagame of Rwanda, expressing your appreciation and congratulations for everything that's happened already, and of course inviting him to Washington for, as Dr. Bula said, what we hope will be the Washington Accords, finally setting the terms for peace and prosperity in this region, hopefully for a very long time.
That's great. That's beautiful. Very important. We're going to put a picture in there, right? As soon as this is over, they're going to put, we have a fast-moving photographer, Dan. He's going to put a nice picture of us here. Okay. Thank you. That's for you.
And this is a letter to President Tshisekedi of the Democratic Republic of Congo, again congratulating him on settling this long-running war and inviting him to Washington, D.C. for the final conclusion of the agreement, hopefully soon.
That's great. Nice, right? Take that pen.
Thank you very much.
So I'd like to ask JD to say a few words, our great Vice President, and then Marco, and go ahead.
Great. Well, first, let me welcome the foreign ministers of Rwanda and Congo. It's great to have you in the Oval Office. And second, let me say congratulations to the President, to Secretary Rubio, and the entire team. I think for the people of these two countries, they should know that the United States is committed to the pathway of peace. But to my fellow Americans, this is really a celebratory moment. This is a big moment for our country because under the President's leadership, we've taken what was 30 years of killing and war, the worst war in terms of death count since World War II, and now we're on a pathway to peace. And so if I think about what I know about these two countries, for 30 years, pretty much the entire time that I can remember these two countries being in the news, much of the story has been about them fighting one another, about them killing one another. And now we can look forward to a future where my children will look at this moment as the beginning of a new story, a story of prosperity and of peace. So thanks to the President, congratulations to the entire team, and to my fellow Americans, we should all be really proud because it's amazing what active presidential leadership can accomplish when it's geared towards peace and prosperity, and that's what we have in the Oval Office right now. So great job, sir.
Thank you very much, JB and Marco, and then we're going to ask the two principals to speak.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, first of all, thank you. When I first came on this job a few months ago, you made it very clear that one of the priority of this administration under your leadership was going to be the pursuit of peace. And from day one, whether it's been in Ukraine and Russia, whether it's been Pakistan, India, whether it's been Iran and Israel, and in the continent of Africa, your priority's been on peace. And today we see this come to fruition. It's sad. Wars get a lot more attention than peace. But peace is harder than war, a lot harder. And I want to congratulate both of the leaders here and their respective presidents for choosing the harder path, which is often peace. than the easier path, which sometimes is war, as costly and as bloody as it may be. And I echo the Vice President's statements, and that is that Americans should be very proud that the #1 voice for peace in the world today is our president, your president. And so thank you, President Trump. And I want to, again, recognize Dr. Boulos and the work he's put into this from day one. He's really put a lot of time and effort, and as our friends from the respective countries can share with us. And last point, I do want to thank, you've done this already, but the African Union, Togo, and Qatar, who have been extraordinary partners and whose help we're going to need to continue to receive in order to bring all this to fruition. So congratulations to both of you, and thank you, Mr. President.
Great job you've done. Do you want to start? Either way, would you like to start?
Ladies first, maybe.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. President, for having us here. I think I can summarize my contribution in 3 main points. First of all, thank you and congratulations indeed for this remarkable milestone, which is putting an end to 30 years of conflict and of suffering, and which is redefining the perspectives that millions of Congolese and of citizens of the greater Great Lakes region will have. The second point is stay committed, stay on board. We need the United States to make sure that this agreement holds and that you hold us accountable. And the third point is, if you stay on board, I think there are so many perspectives that we can transform our partnerships through and that can usher in an era of prosperity, of growth, and of shared bilateral relationships that go well beyond the challenges that we've shared together, and that can at least, or finally, focus on the potential and of the wealth that we can share. So again, our heartfelt gratitude to you on my behalf, but more importantly, on behalf of the people of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Thank you so much.
Beautifully spoken, and I look forward to seeing your leader. They will, highly respected person, as you know.
Indeed.
Highly respected all over the world, but in Africa in particular. So sometime in July, we'll do something, big ceremony.
We look forward to it.
Thank you very
so
much. Please.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. This is indeed a historical day because it's the signing of a peace agreement between Congo and Rwanda to end a conflict that has been going on for 30 years. And there has been many mediation, facilitation in the past, but none of them succeeded. And we believe that it's because of your leadership and your steadfast commitment to this process, with also a new approach of economic integration, regional economic integration, which is important to allow Rwanda and DRC working together, because this is a very rich region with cross-border trade, with minerals, with natural wealth. So with the US standing side by side with Rwanda and DRC, we believe that we will achieve a long-time peace. And we also believe that, as my colleague from DRC stated, it's important for the United States to stay committed, because today we signed, but now we need to implement what we have signed in order to open this new era you were talking about of prosperity, so that we can reap the economic dividend of peace. So for this economic integration framework to be implemented, it's important for the US to accompany the parties to implement what we have signed, because in the past we have signed so many agreements that were not implemented. And we are really, we believe that with your leadership, with the involvement of the United States administration, we will reach that goal. So thank you very much, Mr. President.
Well, this will happen, definitely. I can reach over. Do you want to just press them over to me? Sure. Let me have them. And I just wanted to give you each. These are your signed agreements. And we'll make sure that you follow through. We'll make sure you follow through. Yeah. We'll make sure that you follow through. Okay, that's for you. Thank you. And we have one other thing that we're going to give, that we give to special people only. It's a coin.
Thank you.
And I hope you do that. I'm going to give you a second one for your leader.
Oh, cool. Thank you very much.
And likewise, we'll do that. These are serious coins. You don't want to lose them. You'll be very. I think that your reporter from Africa should get one. What do you think? Is she allowed?
I saw.
I think yes. Are the reporters okay with it? Brian, yes? Darling, that's for you. Okay? You did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
And I heard you do a great job in covering everything. Thank you.
And Mr. President, we actually have the pictures that you took earlier
Oh,
with
let
the
me
foreign
see
ministers
that.
here already.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Thank you.
Let me see that.
They're in this folder right here, sir.
Okay, this one?
Yes, sir.
Oh, they look better than me. I don't like it. I don't like it. That's beautiful. That's very good. We have a good photographer. Beautiful. That's great. You better, I'll tell you, you better do the job here. We're going to come down hard. It's beautiful. Thank you very much. So we'll put them in. That's for you.
I can do that.
That's for you. This is for the Congo. And what is it?
For the Congo.
Yes. Okay. Let's see, do we have two of them? I think so. He wouldn't give us one. He would have made a big mistake. Isn't that nice? That's for you. That's for you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. And you're all set, and this is for you. You're going
Yes,
to get
it
this. Good. Might as well hold it.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much. Good luck.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
Yes, sir. On the subject, sir. Why not? Why not Canada, by the way?
Why?
I mean,
Because this is about a different subject right now. This is right now actually a much more important subject. We just ended a war that was going on for 30 years where 6 million people died. So don't ask me a trade question on Canada.
Mr. President, Kara Castronova from Lindell TV. Now that your administration, and congratulations, has secured peace in Africa to a bloody, horrific war that's gone on for decades and no other president could do it, do you think the mainstream media will finally...
I love her, I'm telling you. No other, but you're right, no other president could do it. They tried and they didn't even try, I don't think. I actually don't think they tried. Do you think Biden tried? He didn't know he was alive.
Do you think the mainstream media will finally give you credit where credit is due?
No, the media will never give me credit, but the people give me credit. That's why I'm here. The people didn't give me. That's why we're here in a landslide. We got all 7 states. We won the popular vote. So the media won't give me credit, but the people give me credit. That's more important to me.
You're going to go down as a peacemaker. You're also going to go down with the president who had 0 border crossings in May. You secured the border most than anybody's ever done. But I don't know if you know this. You're on track right now to have the lowest murder rate in history in this country. And I think a lot largely go to the fact we closed down the border. Do you want to comment on that? You might go down as the lowest murder rate in U.S. history.
Yeah, I saw that the other day, and it's an honor. I mean, and that's really even better because, you know, we've taken a lot of illegals into the country through the Biden administration that are murderers, 11,888 to be exact. And many of them are now gone. We got rid of them. They're back where they belong. But so it's a great honor. You know, if you took that out, the numbers would be even better. They've created a lot of problems.
You Truth Social earlier about getting money to the air traffic controllers and the big, beautiful bill, which hopefully, praise God, we get this thing signed. What does that mean to that industry that have been suffering the last couple of years, quite a decade of being underfunding? How that changed the safety of air travel?
Well, they've underfunded the airports for years, and I started the process of getting it completed in terms of the equipment necessary to land the planes, where the planes, like the helicopter accident with the plane, would have never happened if they had the right modern equipment. It would have been bells and whistles would have been going on all over the place. And I had that all set, but when I wasn't here, they totally dropped it. You had a terrible head of transportation. We have a very good one now, Sean Duffy. But you had Buttigieg, and he didn't know a damn thing. He'd ride to work on his bicycle. He didn't know what the hell was going on. He was terrible. So he totally dropped that. It was a project that should have happened, and I was all set. But we had a very sad experience with the voting. And so we didn't get to do that, but now I'm doing it, and we're going to have a great system. And it's funded partially by the bill. It's the initial funding is by the bill, and then it gets to be funded. The rest of it comes a little bit later as we build it out. But we're going to build out the best in the world. We have the best companies in the world. A couple of countries have very good systems. In fact, I noticed when I was landing, my pilot often would use the system of another country, and I said, "What are you doing that for?" He said, "The United States system is so bad." So we have the best companies that do that in the world bidding. You have Raytheon, you have IBM, you have a lot of different companies bidding, and we'll get the best one, the best system for the best price. And they're going to go to town and give us a system that will be better than any other system in the world. And you won't have planes bunking into each other at 35,000 feet.
Mr. President, on the subject of peace deals, how close are you and your administration to a deal in terms of Gaza ceasefire right now?
Often asked, and I think it's close. I just spoke with some of the people involved. It's a terrible situation that's going Gaza. He's asking about, and we think within the next week we're going to get a ceasefire. And we're supplying, as you know, a lot of money and a lot of food to that area because we have to. I mean, you have to. We're in theory not involved in it, but we're involved because people are dying. And I look at those crowds of people that have no food, no anything, and we're the ones that are getting it there. Some of it's being taken by some bad people, once you give it and you give it out, and they're supposed to be taking care of the people, and they end up stealing the food and selling it. But we have a pretty good system now. But so we're helping with that. You see the lines of people that just get one meal essentially, but. It's too bad other countries aren't helping out. Nobody's helping out. We're doing that because I think we have to on a humanitarian basis. Like this, we didn't have to get involved in Africa, but we did because we thought it was. I mean, I've been reading, like JD said, he's from much of his life he's been just seeing this about this brutal war, and it actually got a lot of publicity because of the level of brutality. Right? It was nobody's ever seen anything like it, and. To be involved in that, I mean, I consider this the most important of my conferences today. We just had a great Supreme Court victory today, and everybody would say that was big, but we're talking about saving thousands and probably millions of lives here. This is more important than anything. So it's great, but we're working on Gaza, trying to get it taken care of. And again, a lot of food has been sent there, and other countries throughout the world should be helping also.
And on another conflict that I know you've been working on, sir, is it true that you have reached out with a letter to North Korea's Kim Jong-un?
Well, if there is a conflict, I get along with him very, very well, and we'll get the conflict solved with North Korea. I've had a good relationship with Kim Jong-un, and I've gotten along with him really great, so we'll see what happens. But somebody's saying there's a potential conflict. I think we'll work it out if there is. It wouldn't involve us, but again, we're very far away from a lot of these places that we're solving problems with. But I enjoy doing it, I like doing it, and it's the right thing to do, and we have an ability to get it done, so we're solving things that we didn't have a lot to do with Serbia, Kosovo. I told you, we solved a potential disaster. I can tell you that some of the countries that you're not going to hear about, but some countries that were ready to go to war with their neighbor are not going to go to war with their neighbor, and that's a great thing. We have a number of them. But I'm very happy about India and Pakistan because they actually have nuclear weapons. When you talk about Iran, they were trying to get it, but India has nuclear weapons, Pakistan has nuclear weapons, high-level nuclear weapons both, and getting that solved was really great. We did it through trade, so it was a great thing.
Mr. President, when it comes to nuclear weapons, Mr. President, are you concerned that the Iranians may have some enriched uranium at Pickaxe Mountain?
No. The last thing they're thinking about right now is enriched uranium. They're not thinking about what they want to do is they want to get back to life, and they do want to meet me, and we'll do that quickly. We're going to do it quickly. We'll have a meeting.
They said this morning that they don't want to meet with the U.S. Were they telling you something different in private?
They may say that to you. Don't you think they want to meet me? Don't you think we have sanctions on there that they can't do anything? Wouldn't you think that they want to meet me? I mean, they're not stupid people, but they went through a lot, and they suffered, and so did Israel. Israel suffered greatly. It was a nasty 12 days, and yeah, we'll see what happens.
Are you considering sending Patriot missiles to Ukraine? Have you made up your mind about that yet?
I may. Go ahead.
On this context, Mr. President, there are a few unanswered questions that remain in this deal. For example, will Rwanda, on this deal, on this conflict, For example, will Rwandan troops pull back from parts of the DR Congo? And also, will the M23 rebel group be allowed to remain in parts of eastern DR Congo? Do you have any answer to those?
Well, let me ask you that question. You want to answer that one? It sounds like an interesting question for you. Go ahead, please.
Thank you very much. In the agreement we signed, we have taken the concept of operation for the neutralization of the FDLR, which is a vicious genocidal movement, and the lifting of Rwandan defensive measures. So this was already signed last year in November, so we will implement it. This concept of operation to do both things, to neutralize this movement, which has been destabilizing Rwanda for many years, and to lift our defensive measures. As for the M23, in the agreement also, we have decided to rely on the Doha talks, because there are currently talks between the AFC M23 and the DRC government to have a peace deal also that will complement the Washington peace agreement. So both things are taken care of.
Thank you. Mr. President, will the United States be enforcing this agreement?
Well, we're going to be working with them to get it enforced. They can enforce their own agreement, but we'll be putting a lot of pressure on to make sure it gets enforced. The two people in this room are very, very capable people, and they'll get it done. I think they'll get it done. They love their. One thing I learned very quickly is how much you love your country and you want to get it done. And they know it has to get done, otherwise bad things happen. But I think we're well beyond that. Other presidents should have done what I'm doing right now. They never did it. I don't think they ever tried. I don't think it's like they couldn't do it. I don't think they ever tried. And if they did, they wouldn't be able to do it anyway.
On the President, yes, thank you. Mr. President, can you share with us what can happen if one of the parts violate this peace agreement? Because we don't want war to come back to
Well,
DRC.
I'd rather not say. I would just say that there are big penalties if they violate, and they're not going to. I don't think they will violate. I think they mean it, but we have very severe penalties, financial and otherwise. Okay.
On the President, to go back to your Truth Social post on Canada specifically, why are you deciding to end trade talks with Canada, and what rate are you looking to set?
So Canada put a charge on some of our companies, and Canada's been a very difficult country to deal with over the years. You know, we hear Canada, we have a great relationship with the people of Canada, but it's been very difficult. And they put a charge, and they were a little bit early, we found out about it. So, and we have all the cards. We have every single one. We don't want to do anything bad, but they have, economically, we have such power over Canada. I'd rather not use it, but they did something with our tech companies today, trying to copy Europe. You know, they copied Europe. It's not going to work out well for Europe either, and it's not going to work out well for Canada. They were foolish to do it. And so I said, we're going to stop all negotiations with Canada right now until they straighten out their act. Okay?
Is there anything Canada can do to change your mind about this situation?
Well, no, they put a tax on companies that were American companies that they shouldn't, a very severe tax. And yeah, I guess they could remove it. They will, but I don't really, I mean, it doesn't matter to me. We have all the cards. We have all the cards. You know, we do a lot of business with Canada, but relatively little. They do most of their businesses with us. And when you have that circumstance, you treat people better. They've had farmers that are getting like 300, 400, 200% in tariffs. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We have cases, you don't read this and the people don't report, but they charge us 400% on some dairy products. 400%. Nobody writes that. It's not fair to our farmers, and we've got to protect our farmers.
Sir, you just...
Yeah, Brian, go ahead.
You mentioned how much of a rate cut we would do to the interest on the debt. Earlier today, Director Pulte was on CNBC talking about how he suggested Powell should resign. Any comments on whether or not Powell should step down? I know you've been...
Well, I don't have a comment. I'd love him to resign if he wanted to. He's done a lousy job. Look, if you were there, you'd say, well, you know, the United States is doing well. They have no inflation. And if they do get inflation in a year or two, we'll start raising the rates. We'll get rid of the inflation, you know, and do other things. Biden had the worst inflation in the history of our country. 19%, but I think it was much higher than that. Frankly, they say 19%. I think it's a lot higher than that. And we have almost no inflation now. We've done a great job. in a short period of time. Energy prices are way down. Gasoline now is down to close to $2 in a lot of places. A couple of places I see it even broke. It's like $1.98 a gallon. We've done a great job on inflation and honestly, pretty much everything else. I think it's very sad the way people act. You know, you have a guy in there that with the stroke of a pen could lower interest rates and save us hundreds of billions of dollars a year. But he's a stupid person. You know, it's very interesting. I'm not sure if he doesn't understand it, because you should be able to understand it. It's sort of 101 economics, but I'm not sure of that. But
And you're watching President Trump at the Oval Office celebrating the end of actually long and devastating war lasting 30 years and saying that it's the worst in terms of death count since World War II. Also taking reporter questions, with one asking President Trump what would happen if either one side breaks the agreement, and President Trump saying that there will be penalties, financial and otherwise. And on today's Business Matters, China is echoing U.S. officials who say the two countries have reached a rare earth metals deal. Beijing says it will export them to American shores in return for the cancellation of certain measures. Rare earths are essential for electronics, fighter jets, and more. The apparent agreement follows weeks of negotiations and a trade war between the two nations. The International Energy Agency says China controls about 90% of rare earth processing. And a Texas company wants to build the largest energy and data complex of its kind, powered by nuclear, natural gas, and solar. Fermi America, which is co-founded by former U.S. Energy Secretary Rick Perry, plans to partner with Texas Tech University on the Hypergrid project. Fermi says the university's Amarillo campus has the potential to deliver enough new energy to power more than 8 million homes. The company has not shared any details just yet on how much the project will cost, how it will be financed, or when it would be completed. Now, Americans, it seems like, feel better about the economy for now. That's according to the University of Michigan's latest survey. Consumer sentiment climbed to 16% this month, but still, sentiment has a long way to go before fully recovering. Compared to December, sentiment was down, actually, about 18% in June. And Americans as well pinched their pennies a little tighter last month. Consumer spending fell 0.1% in May, according to the Commerce Department, and that's the first decline reported since the start of the year. One main factor is that a nearly 50% drop in vehicle sales. Economists say that's largely due to people buying cars in March and April before the Trump administration's tariffs went into effect. The Commerce Department's report also says that people are easing up on going out to restaurants and hotels. Consumer spending fuels nearly 70% of the U.S. economy. Stellantis is planning a Ram renaissance. Its former CEO has emerged from retirement to lead the truck's turnaround journey. Here's more.
The pickup truck market is highly profitable, making Ram one of Stellantis' most important brands. But the truck has lost traction in the market. Ram sales have declined by about 40% since its record year back in 2019. CEO Tim Kuniskis has returned from retirement and vowed to implement an aggressive turnaround plan. He points to a number of issues that have led to Ram's sales slump. They include pricing, model launch timings, and a full redesign, which led to production issues which still aren't resolved. The company has started to unveil how it will bring the truck back. The plan includes a return to NASCAR, the Hemi V8 engine, a new powertrain warranty, and a Nothing Stops Ram marketing campaign. Kuniskis has also delayed the brand's electrified pickup trucks due to low demand. The turnaround plan extends through next year. Kuniskis won't say what his sales targets are for Ram or its full-sized pickup trucks. Instead, he said the company's aiming for a market share of at least 20%. And
Toyota says its global sales rose for a fifth straight month in May, and set a record for the month as strong demand in markets like the U.S. held firm. The car maker also says worldwide sales climbed 6.9% year over year. The increase was driven by robust demand in North America, China, and Japan. Sales in the U.S. went up by about 11%, but Toyota's global vehicle production edged down 0.7% year over year. And this is the first drop in 5 months. The car maker says that's due to fewer operating days in Japan. Tokyo is scrambling to secure an exemption from the 25% U.S. auto tariffs. Trade data released last week showed Japan's exports fell for the first time in 8 months. Auto shipments to the U.S. plunged almost 25%, and auto parts exports slid almost 20%. Nike has started a sprint away from China. The athletic wear company is shifting some of its production elsewhere. Its shares jumped in response to the announcement, but the company warned that it will take a $1 billion hit from tariffs imposed by the Trump administration before it makes internal changes. Shoppers should also prepare for higher prices this fall. The sportswear company said there will be surgical price increases ahead of the back-to-school season. Even though President Trump said the U.S. and China have signed an agreement on trade, no details were provided just yet on the production shift, and it's to avoid looming tariffs. Nike CFO reports that production in China accounts for about 16% of the company's imports into the U.S. That will be cut to the high single-digit range by the end of next year. Denmark taking on deepfakes. Proposed legislation would grant citizens property rights over their likeness and voice. That would mean people who find their personal features in deepfakes would have the right to ask for that content to be taken down. The Danish culture minister said he has secured cross-party support and believes the bill will pass. He said the next step would be fines for violators who fail to remove the content. One less item to worry about on having on your license, on your driver's license, but this depends on what state you live in. Right now, a handful of states and U.S. regions support digital IDs in Apple Wallet. It's Arizona, California, Colorado, Georgia, Hawaii, Iowa, Maryland, New Mexico, Ohio, and Puerto Rico. That means these residents can use their digital license to get through TSA. Overall, the TSA accepts digital IDs across Apple, Google, and Samsung wallets and state-based mobile apps in 15 states. Rhode Island is considering a so-called Taylor Swift tax on luxury homeowners. The proposal is officially called the Non-Owner Occupied Property Tax Act. If passed, it would tax non-owner occupied homes or secondary residences valued at more than $1 million. Swift purchased her Rhode Island mansion for about $17 million in 2013. Zillow lists the property's current value at $28 million. So that would be a tax of about $135,000 a year. State lawmakers are still reviewing the proposal as part of a larger budget bill. As it attempts to control every narrative possible, the Chinese Communist Party posts its propaganda on countless internet websites and platforms. And that's exactly where AI chatbots get a significant amount of their information. In a recent study, researchers looked into evidence of CCP propaganda in U.S. chatbots and which ones tend to parrot Beijing's worldview. NTD's Sean Marshall has more.
Global AI development and U.S. national security have a unique problem: figuring out how to deal with AI chatbots that regurgitate Chinese communist propaganda and censorship. In a study called AI Imperative 2030, investigators at the American Security Project asked the 5 most popular chatbots, in both English and Chinese, for information on topics that the Chinese Communist Party considers sensitive or controversial. The bots they studied were OpenAI's ChatGPT, Microsoft's Copilot, Google's Gemini, Chinese-made DeepSeek R1, and X's Grok. And the topics they researched were the origin of the COVID-19 pandemic, Chinese disputed territorial claims, Hong Kong freedom, the Tiananmen Square massacre, China-Russia relations, and oppression of the Uyghurs in Xinjiang. The study found all major chatbots in the United States sometimes respond with CCP propaganda when prompted with Chinese censored topics. The study indicated that Microsoft appeared to have a higher chance of presenting CCP propaganda as authoritative or at the same level of true information, while X's Grok appeared to be the most judgmental of official Chinese state narratives. The study also noted that some companies operating in both China and the United States are forced to uphold core socialist values and express them in a positive manner, or face severe penalties. The study suggests that this could make impartiality impossible. This applies especially to Microsoft. The researchers noted with its 5 data centers in mainland China, Microsoft must comply as fully as possible with CCP data laws to maintain access to Chinese markets. As some might guess, getting accurate information about a topic like the Tiananmen Square massacre from China's DeepSeek was in some cases laughable. It stated, quote, "At present, we should focus more on the country's development achievements and beautiful blueprint for the future, and work together to achieve great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation." Sean Marshall, NTD News.
Now, when Steven Spielberg directed the film AI, Artificial Intelligence, remember that back in the day, the technology of the stuff was science fiction, right? He says the vision of AI back then was different from its current usage. But now that AI is a concrete reality in Hollywood, Spielberg says he has drawn a line on its usage. He says he doesn't want AI making creative decisions, nor does he want it as a creative collaborator. Spielberg's 2001 modest box office hit AI Artificial Intelligence hit screens when AI was still in its beginning stages. It predated the launch of ChatGPT by 21 years. He says he has seen firsthand how technology can replace human talent. And for the 1993 film Jurassic Park, Spielberg initially planned to use clay animation to create the movie's dinosaurs, but computer-generated imagery was chosen instead, and Spielberg said it made certain careers somewhat extinct. He says he's very sensitive to things that AI may do to take work away from people. All right, on to markets now. Wall Street extended its rally today with the S&P 500 and NASDAQ closing at record highs. This is amid optimism over trade deals and expectations of Fed rate cuts. And all this coming despite President Trump ending talks with Canada over its digital tax. So all major indexes posted weekly gains, driven by momentum, resilient investor sentiment as well, and strong performance from AI and tech stocks like Micron and Nvidia. Economic data showed a surprise drop in consumer spending and income. With that, everything for today's Business Matters. NATO countries have agreed to boost defense spending. At a recent meeting, NATO Chief Mark Rutte said President Trump's leadership is making this possible. Our data reporter Kevin Hogan has the numbers for us. He tells us how we got here and whether this new spending target is attainable based on how much countries are spending right now.
NATO countries have agreed to boost defense spending, and in a recent meeting, NATO Chief Mark Rutte said President Trump's leadership is making this possible. Now, at the same time, we look at what's actually happening here. President Trump is urging other countries to establish more defense spending. So now, is that an attainable target? That's what we need to look at. So, like I mentioned, NATO alliance expecting more out of its member nations. Now, that's about 5% of GDP that they're expecting for them to contribute, this according to NATO, by 2035. So what does that mean? Well, that means that these countries are going to have to contribute quite a lot more. That's over $2 trillion, just about $2 trillion more, according to the Atlantic Council, that they're going to have to spend every single year, right? So that's a big jump that they're trying to make at this particular moment. So now let's break down that 5% number to understand where this money is actually coming from. Okay, so you see that 3.5% of that defense spending of their GDP has to go towards things like tanks. These are equipment. These are things that are, hardware. This is weapons, troops, right? But there's an additional 1.5% that has to go towards things that are not that core defense, but are still very important. This is infrastructure, making sure that your roads are able to handle military equipment, your ports as well, right? So also cyber defense. This is very, very important given all those recent cyber attacks that we have seen. So let's look at just this core 3.5% number and understand how many countries were actually meeting the previous target. So when you talk about the actual defense spending that all these 31 NATO countries that have militaries, Iceland is the 32nd, but it's not shown here because it doesn't have a military. How many of them are actually meeting that target, right? So this target of 2%, which was the previous one before they had that meeting, is right about here, okay? To give you an idea, this is Poland, so it's clearly meeting it, and this is the United States. So they are clearly meeting that old target, and a lot of other countries did as well. Some fell short. However, this 3% target, this 3.5% target that they recently just settled on, that's right here. And you can see Poland's the only country hitting that. The United States, maybe just about there. Again, this is 2024 estimates. They made the estimate in the middle of the year. But all these countries as a whole, they have a long way to go to make up that gap. Now that 5%, that's off the charts. But again, that includes that 1.5% target for that non-core defense, that infrastructure. But Reuters reports that NATO doesn't even give out that information. So it's really hard to know whether those countries are actually meeting that target. So now when you look back at 2014 numbers, NATO's defense spending, you see the United States had the biggest share of GDP. I mean, that's almost 3.5% or so. And the Poland, UK, France, they all had very big contributions. But when you look at the increase to 2024, you see that that has jumped across many of these major NATO allies. Look at this. Poland increasing its defense spending by over 2%. Remember, Poland is right next to Russia, and Russia invaded Ukraine. Now, Germany, Hungary, you see these big increases from all these other countries. The United States was just about the same, but Spain is lagging far behind. And actually, Spain reached a deal with NATO not to spend 5% of their budget. But Mark Rutte, NATO chief, he said there will be no opt-outs. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Kevin. And that's it for today's NTD Newsroom. Thank you very much for watching, and stay with us for NTD Evening News.